So first up, 251 Gold Nugget Drive.
Okay, this is a continuation from last time. Last time we requested more information, which they have provided. They have updated the site plan with better distances. I did not provide a new staff report or anything on it. I believe they did clarify that the deck construction is outside the setback. There is a portion that extends into the setback, which is stairs, but I do typically allow stairs as long as it's not the actual structure of the deck. That's not in the setback? I thought it was.
If that's 15-foot side setback, it's for, yeah, it's not outside. So I think it's in stairs.
Okay,
Well, that's scale.
let me just double check this while we're talking about it. We got 20. Okay, so yeah, the line is meant to be 15.
I mean, I drew that. They didn't illustrate it. So they still didn't illustrate the setbacks.
But they updated the distances, which is the big concern.
They have different, and that's why I drew the line. So it looks like it's
Yeah,
even the stairs.
I would agree, but even if the stairs do encroach slightly, I do allow stair landings and the stair risers themselves to be into the setbacks, just not an actual setback. But it looks like they do fully comply. I believe that was the only outstanding question on that permit. If you recall, this is a conversion of an above garage space to a bedroom, a breezeway connection, and a rather extensive facelift addition / remodel on the rear of the home, creating a big glass wall. I don't know what you want to call it.
I didn't see any floor plans that included. I know we got them last month, so I went back and I looked. I had a question. It looks like based on what we saw last month, there was potential because they had basically a separate access. That breezeway is now enclosed, but it's potential for the issues that we didn't see on the site plan last month.
So on my staff report, I don't know if that's in here because you said this is a duplicate. I did create the definition of a lock-off unit, is what we call it, which are prohibited in the town. So it's essentially a space that can become an ADU because it's separated by a door. If you really read through the definition, I don't believe the space does qualify, but I included those definitions because that was my concern as well.
Yeah, you do have it in the reviewer comments right there. Those two.
So I did want to bring those to your attention and make sure you are okay with this layout, because it is a concern of mine as well.
I think what we've done in the past is utilize 16A, 17, 20A3. It's just a use restriction as a condition of a building permit. And it just outlines what the use is at the time of approval. I would make a motion to approve with that condition.
Can I just ask a question about that definition of a lock-off? And I'm having trouble finding it on here, but part of it said that the area is capable of being physically separated or divided into an additional space suitable as an independent or additional dwelling unit. And, not being a construction guy, but having done construction, you guys can do whatever you want. It's just how much money and time it's going to cost you. And so like that the verbiage of it, and I find it a little bit confusing, and I understand the desire and the favor of approving this with a comment that this is not to be an ADU, but and I don't want to go crazy with the code, but isn't that a pretty broad statement that would almost 3/4 of the things eventually,
In my opinion, no. If you don't see separate access, and this is borderline, right? Because you're at a little bit of a disadvantage unless you went back and looked at last month's packet. Per the floor plans, which I don't know that we have them. I didn't see them here. Per these floor plans that we saw last month, there was an outside breezeway that is now going to be enclosed. Go left, that's the garage, and there's separate steps that access living space above. Go right, and you're in the primary dwelling. It doesn't appear but there's potential. So this, in my mind, by, invoking use restriction, it just basically says that we acknowledge it, but, we're not basically recognizing it as a separate unit. So I think that's the best use. That was the purpose.
I guess again, the word capable bothers me, I mean, you can capably do a lot of things. How much is it gonna cost you? How disruptive is it? Put up a wall there, right, when you walk in the door. And, the door to the right goes here, the door to the left goes there. And again, I don't think that that's reasonable to interpret it like that, but it kind of reads that way to me, that, again, it's very extreme.
But if you look at the rest of that definition, it does say kitchen entities.
But it doesn't say and, it's a separate sentence, and then it just says, there's a kitchenette. And again, you can create a kitchenette in a corner of a room if you really wanted to. So again, this capable thing, I'm in favor of moving forward with this, improving it. And just the verbiage of a lock-off kind of seems a bit all-inclusive to me. And I don't know if you guys are comfortable moving on. Let's move on.
Do you want to make a different motion, or you want?
No, I'm more saying it from, do you change this verbiage? Maybe with this case, I would approve it, and I would approve the next one. But it kind of, again, like other things that we do, it's this ambiguous wording. Again, I can interpret this easily to say no. I don't think that's the intent. I don't think that's fair, and it's not my job to be fair. It's more what the regulation says. But
unless you're adamantly opposed, that we can take that discussion into the future.
Yeah.
Right.
I think if we approve this with a use restriction as a condition of the building permit, we at least acknowledge that there's a potential without, authorizing its use, right? It's just habitable space under the same roof, as far as we can see and as we understand it. And I think that's the appropriate way.
I agree.
I think I made a motion.
Yeah, I think a motion.
I made a motion, we approve, with the inclusion of a use restriction as a condition of building permit for 16A 1720A3.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the use restriction is that it does not become a walk-off unit.
Correct.
Moving on to 15 Wilderness.
Alright, I'm not getting my stuff to populate here. It says all couldn't preview.
Says we lifted the
Yeah.
project,
It does.
we requested
Yeah, let me grab my hard drive.
a small variance request.
Correct.
This would be the administrative component. With the particular fee component, yeah.
The only thing I saw when I looked closer at this is on the south side, they're showing a patio. It's not a deck. It doesn't show it on an exterior elevation. I don't see any, what its use is, but, it would be in the setback. And I believe that we have a hot tub on it. I think that would be prohibited. 16B7 120. But it's not shown there.
Okay. Did you guys have questions for me? Because
Um,
that is correct. A hot tub cannot be in the setback, but a patio I do not consider a structure, so that is allowed in the setback. The only thing I had in here was the windows are fairly large. Everything else was,
Talked about, last month, I mean,
yeah, that's up to your guys' opinion. I just note that I personally feel they're large, so.
I think it look good.
yeah, it's an aesthetic
Yeah.
discretionary analysis at that point. Which I don't think we had any
Problems. with
any
that.
problems with it last time. It was just due to the
So,
triangle lot. Is that considered a side setback, a rear setback? It's technically the rear setback, but effectively with where the lot is located, we kind of all agreed that it should be, treated more like a 15-foot side setback, which it complies with the 15-foot setback. But technically, that's the variance request. The patio you're talking about on that.
They don't show any use of what its
Yeah.
purpose is,
I apologize. So this one is on the agenda for your recommendation to the Board of
For the
Trustees.
trustees, right?
Okay.
So, I guess I'll make a motion to, recommend approval, to the Board of Trustees for this variance request.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, and this one will come back to you guys for another architectural review if it passes.
We can talk about hot tubs next month. Again,
Will it come back in front of us though, if we already approved it last month?
Is this the one you did that with?
Yeah,
It is.
yeah.
Okay, so that's when you were getting at.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
So this is,
if the trustees approve the variance,
then
it should.
it's a go.
Okay, yeah, you don't need to see it again. Perfect, that's 3 more.
They're not illustrating the hot tub, so at that point we kind of have to.
Yep.
Trust the intent.
281 Wilderness.
The right project in front of me this time. File working now. Not used to this many. Okay. A typo in there, but it looks like we're okay. The downcast lights were not indicated, but that is pretty typical. This one, okay, catching up. Okay, so yeah, this is an addition onto the pretty much the only area that's not in the setback on the property. I really didn't have any major concerns with it, so let's just discuss and ask questions if you have any.
Did you say it's a typo where it's under the parking section? That you're referring to?
Yeah, there was an N,
Yeah.
but it was green, so I missed it. But they do comply with parking. They indicate 4 parking spaces anyway, so they fully comply. This is an addition, so forcing them to comply with new construction requirements for parking, but regardless, they fully comply.
Purple, you didn't see anything.
No,
So
it looks good.
we're not really worried about on this one.
So, just a question with this downcast lighting. So we had a neighbor who, put in lighting that was not consistent with our HOA. It's different. And he was forced to make modifications and was very upset. So here, they don't note their downcast lights. I assume we would approve this with the caveat that they would have to put appropriate lighting in. And then if they don't, then in your inspection, you force them to.
Yeah,
take it out.
almost every project, that's a write up on the final inspection, that the exterior lights do not meet. What our code says is that the light cannot cast beyond the property lines. So essentially that requires downcast, it can't be frosted or direct bulb.
And there's some grandfathering in for that, I think.
Yeah, it's not a retroactive requirement for applies to new construction. The Board of Trustees has discussed it several times to make a town-wide thing, but it has not gone through in the past couple of years.
Thank you.
Your motion.
Yeah, I would make a motion to approve 281 Wilderness for the addition and remodeling as indicated.
One second.
All in favor? Aye. Moving on to 12, Blue Rock. New construction.
Okay, 12 Blue Rock, this is the one that has come to me a couple times. They had setback issues. This is one that I think we casually discussed. There were a few that did some design work and they did not understand how we were currently doing the setback requirements. So they did resubmit and they are measuring from the easement as indicated on the plat. So I believe they have made all the corrections.
Well, I would-
that are required.
I would disagree with that. It looks like they're measuring 25 feet from center line of the road easement, not from the edge of the road easement.
That's from property line, 25
So
feet,
they're measuring 25 feet from property
This
lines,
old
not,
drawing?
which is in the road.
This might be old drawings.
They're dated November of 2025,
Let me,
sheet 82 of
yeah,
172.
I think we have the original drawings uploaded here. How do we fix this then? Because they need to, can we pull it up on the big screen of the data set?
I don't believe so, because it's a separate system.
Okay, Bob, how do you?
So the plans that they have in front of them are the old plans?
Yes,
And you have the new plans?
yes,
And you reviewed the new plans and they conform?
correct. They reconfigured the home layout and moved it beyond the setback line.
can you email those and or at least to Dan and myself and we can look at them. Get this out, because looking at say what we represented today was
Is there, you got this system on emails or not?
clearly,
But can we get on our emails from yours?
I don't know about the tablet. I can my laptop. What we're provided is certainly.
What's happened with the slope of the roofs?
He switched it to a gable style roof.
Yeah, because we're still seeing T12.
I don't know if I have your emails.
Never in here, I mean.
What's your?
That's my question.
Let me just send it to you.
There's
the cast.
Oh, that's wrong.
Okay. You should have that right.
Shall we table this to the end of the agenda?
Or you could do a huddle, you could also look at the screen. That's the most efficient right now to get it. to move.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm having screen issues because my second monitor is.
That was like a couple of years ago.
You know.
It's still running its way through.
Okay, I agree. And can we go to the next one? Or we come back to this one?
Moving on to 201 Creekside.
Okay, if I recall correctly, this one, I created a staff report for it, but I indicated that they were in the front setback. Trying to picture this layout. They responded back with, they would like reconsideration about how we are considering it because of their existing conditions. So I just simply leave this for you to discuss, to provide feedback back to the applicant. I believe there is the comment, the request within your packet as well.
And if I could, Dan T. Dart, Timberline Law, I'm here on behalf of the applicant. So just to address, it's not, existing conditions that we focused on. So what we've done is, we adjusted any other concerns here. So we're dealing with the one area of the home that's in the front setback as the new measurements go. But as part of Creekside Drive, at the very end of Creekside Drive, there's only 3 homes that are serviced by this area. So functionally, and under the code, and that we have this in the narrative that we submitted, so I'll be quick on it, but functionally, this serves as a driveway. So I absolutely understand the policy rationale, what the town's trying to accomplish by taking all these old easements, just like the one we just looked at on Blue Rock, right, where there's a road that just slices through the center line of the 2 lots, and trying to move back the setback so that you can, deal with maintenance and all those other issues. And recognizing these as prescriptive right-of-ways, even though they're inchoate and imperfected, meaning they haven't been decreed by the court yet, as a way to, bring them under the umbrella of, town rights of way. However, here, I don't think there's any way you can really establish open and notorious or adverse use or public use of the area. It's the very, very end of Creekside Drive. There isn't even a cul-de-sac over there, just stop short. There's 3 driveways, our driveway, and then the 2 lots that spur off from the very end of it there. And both of those driveways are completely on those lots. As a matter of fact, the lot adjacent to us, their driveway is on our lot, which is fine. But here, because this isn't a prescriptive right of way, because it doesn't have that public use aspect to it, because of the specific nature of this particular pursuant to the code, and I can give you guys the citation for that. 16B 750 C1. A driveway serves up to 4 lots. So what we have here is something very different from most of the rights of way where you're dealing with this policy and understanding we deal with this policy what you're trying to put in place. This is a very significant exception to it. We're at the very end of the road and there is public use. So it's not prescriptive. If it's not prescriptive, it can't be defined as a town road easement pursuant to section 3 and section 7 of the new regulations that you guys are trying to adopt regarding setbacks. I also appreciated that I was able to see a lot of the communication regarding this issue and try and fine tune it because this is a very challenging thing. I saw that at the very end of this agenda. But as far as we go, we're trying to address is the fact that where this home is, particularly where this little section of the home is, that does protrude into what would ostensibly be the new setback, but really doesn't apply because of the driveway. It's beyond our driveway. It's in an area where there isn't any impediment to maintenance, any impediment to snow removal or anything of that nature. There isn't any public access over there. There's no means of public access. So, in terms of the policy perspective too, there's nothing here where this any way to upset or to frustrate the policy that you guys are trying to accomplish with new setback regulations. I think this is a very particular exception to what you're trying to do, and I think it's a very practical exception to what you're trying to do. So try to lay that out in the narrative that we submitted here. But essentially, there can't be open, notorious, or adverse public use when you're dealing with the driveway. Just de facto, the driveway is defined in the code, and here there is no actual practical obstruction or issue with this. And the easement that we're talking about dead ends on our property. That's the very end of that. That's the terminus of that easement. So what we have here is a pretty unique exception. That's why we're bringing it up and addressing it. Everything else, Kyle, from the last time around that you highlighted, made those adjustments, and thank you for making those corrections and noting those. So we're just dealing with this issue. And that's kind of where we're at on it. And we think it's very unique. And we figured we were here just to try to discuss it with you and just see if there are any questions or concerns, and just kind of lay out the way that we see it and why we think this is that justified exception to the policy that you're trying to accomplish. We don't have any issues with the policy you're trying to accomplish. It just doesn't have any application here.
So I would like to add a couple things now that I'm caught up on the project. Sorry, I just can't move this fast. So he does hit a home of what is a driveway and what is the road access easement. So if you recall, some of it is, we measure from the actual location of the road. But if you look on Google Earth and even on the site plan here, the driveway essentially is the road. So where does the driveway begin? Where does the road end? It's very difficult to actually measure where that road access easement should be because of the shapes of this road. It's not a clean, straight road. So I just wanted to bring that to you because we are going after that road access easement. And where exactly is the road is a consideration.
Danny, I'll just make one comment, just regarding, you insinuated a lot that like we're trying to impose some new restrictions. We're trying to clean up the language of the definitions of setback, where they're measured from, that has already been adopted by the board of trustees.
And I totally understand,
So
yeah.
we're not trying to like impose new restrictions.
I know, I was saying you're fine tuning it.
There's confusion in the language, and it's some repetitive stuff, but this is not, you know, this was adopted, last year by the board of trustees.
Right.
So not something like we're trying to push some new
Oh, I totally agree with that, totally agree.
regulation. You know, looking at this project, its location, you know, I see the unique aspect it is at the end of the road. I would, you know, my initial thought would be just like what we said on previous project that had the triangle shaped lot and
15.
front and rear, and you know it does. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would
I
even
think this is the edge of the road, so this is probably approximately.
fit. Yeah,
So just to tag on to what Chris was saying, I read in your letter, you know, I think you misquoted us, traditionally measured from front property line. It's never in the 61 years that I'm aware of. Our code hasn't measured front setback from the front property line. It was typically measured from the edge of the access road easement. Even if we throw that out, we just look at 2025-02 and our current language in the code, you know, and measure off of the existing road, wherever that may be, and it is relatively indicated on the site plan, the home would still be within that front 25-foot setback. So, sorry to interrupt, but
no, I'm just, yeah, I guess leading into, I mean, one, you know, even if it was, I mean, it is within 25-foot setback from the property line. If we ignore the access easement. At the very least, if whether we want to approve it or not, I believe it needs to go through a variance process, just like
15.
wilderness that we just, you know, we expressed, you know, understanding the complex nature of that lot. But we need to go through the proper steps and procedure. And you know, we're not the ones to be able to say, yeah, sure, we think it's okay, so it's okay. Because then with a variance request, we can make a recommendation and the board of trustees can approve or not approve. I don't know what other
I would agree with that.
commissioners' thoughts on the property.
Variance process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know, but just in general, before we even like,
yeah, I would agree with that. There's no tool here that we can just say, we can approve it. It would have to go through that variance process. But I would just add that, you know, even if it did, there's more than one issue at hand here. You know, in your own application, you admit that there's still encroachment on what would be the east side, the side setback.
No, there's not.
That's pretty close. It appears that there is.
No, even in the staff report, Cal's correct.
Yeah, I'm looking at the drawings now, he's revised it, I believe this again is the original drawings.
I mean, we need the tools to do our job, if we don't have them, I apologize. But, you know, we'd have to weigh it on that, but I also noticed that there was some roof slope issues. Our roof, our code allows for 312, and I believe we've got 2.5 12, and quite a bit. Let me just verify that, but, so we've got that issue.
On just, Dan, just jumping on,
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
lot of 2.5, 12, you know, and I don't know that, you know, our attorney might be able to weigh in better. But I don't know that, you know, what is the definition of hardship, right? So there's issues with the front setback, no doubt. But how does that play? And it's not for me to say, what is the hardship? Is it just the road, or, you know, is there more to it? Was it just the way it was laid out? You know, I'm not trying to redesign this house, I'm just trying to weigh it against our current criteria in our own code. And what I see is it doesn't meet currently. So.
I'll just jump in on your comments on the. There are numerous 2.5, 12, 212 pitches. Looking at the architectural renderings, they do present themselves as accessory, you know, they're not primary roof pitch forms, which is, you know, what we've been, you know, concerned about and working to clean up that language as well. You know, the predominant roof pitch is a 812 gable style roof. So, you know, all the 2.5, 12, 212 are secondary roof pitches.
Take a look at 109, sheet 109, 172 though. I don't know, because I'm not measuring that, but it is.
Yeah, but like when you look at.
I see this prime.
When you look at the 3D, you know,
the big elevation.
The elevations, you can get a better, I mean, that is a substantial amount of 2.5, 12 on that one section. And most of those are, you know, when you look at the elevations, they present themselves as secondary roof forms.
I can drop it out. I just don't, I don't think it's the slam dunk that we looked at last month where we say, this is a clear no-brainer for a variance. This needs a variance. I just don't know, you know, how it weighs against that. That's just me. I'm only one.
So is there anything you can do to change the roof pitch to?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, if there's those things that.
So,
That's, I guess.
yeah, and going back, this is again something that like current code is, there's some ambiguity in the wording, and also anything between the 212 and the 312 was just not really addressed. So
Yeah.
Essentially, you know, is it even?
I think it's
312. So 312 and above are accepted roof pitches. 212 and lesser are allowable in secondary forms, like over an entryway, under a patio, you know, a waterproof, you know, deck over, you know, over a roof, something like that. We've been trying to work with the trustees to like clarify that language a little better, and like, what do we do when a 2.5, 12 comes up? Currently,
Yeah.
It's not even mentioned, so it's not really anything below 312 is not allowed. So, except when 212 and below are allowable in these secondary forms. So there's just that one, you know, some of the more minor areas that are over entryways and whatever, but there is a pretty predominant. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah, I guess looking at the rendering.
Looking on the rendering,
I'm not too.
it doesn't.
No,
yeah,
it looks like they are mostly secondary. You
Yeah,
know,
there's
is what I'm
on the
saying.
roof plan, it does show a pretty large area of 2.5, 12.
Yeah, that area is pretty well hidden between the roof sections. That's this 2.5 here. But it's hidden behind this gable, behind that gable.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I'll make a confession, I have trouble tiling my own bathroom, but we do have our architect here. I'll assure you, that, yeah, whatever design standards that are there, we'll make sure that we meet, you know, the one thing that we're pressed up on is
I mean, we've
obviously
been
the
working to
front setback.
try to like, let's clarify it that it's,
Yeah,
you know, and
but-
like 212 and under, and then 212 and above, just because there's this and we have,
Yeah.
you know,
No, the feedback, we appreciate the feedback, it's great, right?
I mean, looking at the elevations, it doesn't stand out to me like there's a predominance of a low slope roof.
Right.
So, and, you know, my take on, the ordinance is that it's an aesthetic, idea. And so if we're judging it by those criteria aesthetically, it's not standing out as a predominant roof form. But we have struggled with this because of the, ambiguity of the current language of that ordinance.
One other thing that jumps out at me is parking, right? So even if you were to qualify for that variance, we're not supposed to be parking in setbacks.
Yeah.
So you only have 2 interior spaces, you need a third at a minimum. There's probably some space there, but maybe it's a multi-faceted approach to that variance. There may be a need to ask or to revise.
I mean, it's illustrating 2 guest parking spaces going right up to the edge of the lot line.
Yeah, I mean, if you measure off of here, 25 feet, you just use this as your.
Or in
This is gonna be, this is gonna be all set.
So, so it would be right up to the edge of the property, or no, not even, because here's the property line. So so it would be within a 15-foot setback for these guest parking spaces. But it would not be within the 25-foot setback from the access easement. But if we were
I'm not even talking about access.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this road.
Yeah.
If this is the town road easement, let's just say, right here,
there's the red is the edge of the easement.
that's are you talking about the 15-foot distance?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm talking about town
Actual
road
town,
easement,
actual town.
defined town road easement. Per 2025-02, this line, see this
Yeah.
little, they actually call it out gravel road.
So they're
You gotta go 25.
Let's all take a peek at this.
Yeah, just so, because I know there's a lot of documents out there, and so just to clarify, and I think Kyle can reflect this too. So we did correct that one, so you might be looking at the old one where there were 2. We got rid of the one, there's one outside spot here. This is the
yeah, so
easement from
this is again the old.
Yeah,
The original.
So
I'm working at it. Nothing like reviewing old drawings.
yeah,
That's the best.
and I can't tell you, we have
My
new
time's
drawings.
not valuable.
No, we have new drawings in there and stuff, so I'm not sure how it was laid out in the packet.
It was not, yeah,
We submitted a whole new application.
it did not make it to our packet. So
Okay, and I apologize for that, but I can tell you that we didn't do that, we
And
submitted
the
a whole.
parking, yes, so the parking did come up in the first round review and you can
And-
address it.
Yeah,
But this isn't an
Yeah.
addition.
Sure.
It's not-
because I have my red lined printout, so.
But this is an addition and not new construction. So,
Yeah.
the way I treat the parking for the most part is that they can't reduce their parking, that's compliant. And it looks like according to Google Earth that they have 2 compliant parking spaces per.
This would be approximately.
Yeah, but then guest parking space
Sure.
removed, so that is
That
an
meets,
addition.
that solves it.
That meets it.
Yeah.
Looks like they solved it here. I don't.
Why to show it to the rest of the crew here.
Yeah, pass it around, pass it around.
We had an exhibit twice the size of I could use that one, so. But yeah, so but I appreciate it, Dan, that's another one of those things where we're gonna make sure that all those design concerns, whatever is there, so there was an E that was in the side setbacks, so that's been corrected, and I think that's what
That's what I was.
Yeah,
That's been brought back.
I mean,
Yeah. Oh, no. Right, so yeah, I guess I heard it happens, that's fine, technology is great, sometimes not,
Give them
but,
back.
so basically, and what I can say is,
Yeah, have them do the legwork
for
for
our
our
architects, we'll make sure that all design standards, we'll double check and make sure all design standards, there's not any, even with the roof pitches and stuff like that, there's no new instance missed. And we understand, so the one thing that we can't change is that part in the front, and so obviously we'll get feedback to address that, but hopefully this helps.
Thank you.
Any other questions on aesthetics or parking? I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a frontline variance for.
That's not the question at hand, though. They gotta apply.
Or
They have to apply.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you'd have to make a recommendation for them to apply.
They'll have
Yeah, make a recommendation for you to apply for a variance. For, room, sorry, I missed it. It's 201 Creekside.
Creekside.
Two. 201 Creeksides.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to
Thank you.
383 Mount Argentine.
And do we have one clarification? So if we apply for the variance, would we apply to the trustees for that, or we would apply to this?
To the,
Well, you need to apply to town
To the
staff to actually review and start the process. It will come back to them as an initial recommendation back to the trustees, in which case there'll be a public hearing at the board of trustees to actually grant the variance.
and I think at that same time, we would do an architectural review of it.
Yeah, I'm recommending it comes back for architectural review because we're changing the roof pitches and you do.
Possibly
the latest
just-
drawing.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we'll be back here in a month and then the trustees after that.
Trustees would be just
2 weeks later.
Trustees.
2 weeks later for the variance finalization.
We can come back to this commission before we go to the trustees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we could do the architectural.
We
At the same time,
we do
so the one stop,
And once, if we approve it, recommend approval of the variance, goes to the trustees, if they approve the variance request.
it's all
then
done.
it's done. Okay.
Okay,
Cause there's, the public notice has to come out 21 days.
Yeah, we'll get you set up. That's a big process.
It's a 15-day window.
15 days,
Yeah.
there's not enough room between now and the trustees meeting to get the public notice.
Yeah.
So it's gotta go into
so
next month.
Yeah, thanks.
Public
Yeah.
notice can.
Thank
can be the public
and
for-
thank you all for taking the time to be
Yeah,
back and
yeah.
look forward to seeing you next month and we'll go from there.
There you go.
Thanks.
That, and it's,
We into Mount Argentine?
Yep, Mount Argentine.
Okay, so this one looks like it's mostly just a two-car addition, but it's actually a multifaceted renovation as well. They are actually demolishing small portions, reconfiguring some layout. It's pretty much a full interior renovation as well. Not that the interior renovation really means a whole lot to you, I just want you to be aware that this is a rather extensive, project. There is one comment that I had on here, or that I didn't put on here, that we do have this section in the code that says the garages shall be set back from the front of the house. It depends on where you look at the front of the house for this one. But I did not add that on here. I did not feel that was too big of a deal, but I did want to bring that up to you guys. And we do have that code section. And if you consider this the front of the house, the garage is the very front. The code does require the garage to be set back. Other than that, everything pretty much passed with flying colors.
you know, just to comment on the setbacks, I mean, one thing, this being an SVR, they're already required to have greater setbacks than anything the town recommends. So they have a 50-foot side setback and 150-foot front setback. So even though the garage expansion is in the front of the house, it's 150 feet setback, 150 foot plus the front of the lot line on Mount Argentine Road, so.
Yeah, and I don't see that garage setback, that, you know, I know what you're talking, but to me, when it's attached, I don't know that applies. I don't know that doesn't feel like it applies.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I did the review, I didn't feel like it
Yeah.
applied. But I just wanted to
On the detached garage, that's, you know, ideal, but there's also, I think we deal with that in one of the next projects under review, same thing with the garage, there's no other place to put it oftentimes, but, in this, like, yeah.
This is way off the street.
It's way off the street, the setback requirements in SPR is huge.
I did have
I
a question.
believe this is the same property owner maybe that already did the giant
Oh,
No.
really?
garage, is it not the same guy? Just not, just no. On
I don't know.
No,
At the top, just before you turn down Mount Argentina?
yeah,
No, different.
okay. I heard rumors that maybe this one.
There's a different project that you
Oh, it's, okay, not, it hasn't come below us.
Yes.
It hasn't come upon us.
I would like to, I would like
Oh,
to,
there's another one with lots of
I
garages.
believe this one did completely change its driveway orientation as well.
Okay.
That's clear in the drawing. I don't know if that.
I didn't notice that. Is it coming in from a different point or?
It's on the opposite side of the carriage house. It used to come up to the front of the house, now it comes to the right of the house.
Right.
So, but the driveway does comply with all of our requirements. They are converting the carriage
Oh,
house,
yeah,
and it really wasn't clear what they're converting it to.
Says storage.
Storage. Okay.
new driveway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just don't know what that building is, but converting it to storage.
Will they allow that?
Just a garage.
Allow what?
The driveway. I mean, I guess.
I don't know if they have an HOA review.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, so I noticed there was a conversion of the carriage house, but there's nothing in the plan set about it. Was it converting to storage? And if so, do we know why? Is there like a max square footage on the
The
house?
applicant
Just
here-
the garage of the carriage house is being converted to storage,
Okay,
not the rest of the.
it's not, there's no.
And the carriage house isn't part of this project,
Sure.
except for the fact that there was a driveway that went to the front of the carriage house and that's being removed. So what garage the carriage house has wouldn't be accessible with this project, but they don't want that garage anyway.
Got it. Thank you. The only other question I had, Kyle, was, I don't think it really applies to us, but on, it looks like there was an addition to the septic in, I don't know what date this was after the fact, but talks about system approved for 2-bedroom, this must have been the addition of the carriage house, with 1 hot tub and no future additions. Obviously that doesn't impact us, but, I would hate for these folks to run up against the brick wall with environmental health, because environmental health was to say, you have a system that, I didn't see an upgrade to the system, but I don't know if they'll be impacted by that. Would we need to address that in here as well?
There's no change to the bedroom count.
Okay,
Yeah, so that's the trigger for us.
okay,
Go to bed.
We won't issue the permit to increase the bedroom without environmental approval.
okay. Thank you.
Make a motion. To approve. 383 Mount Argentine as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to 38 Rock Springs addition.
Okay. So this is actually that same code section I just mentioned a few minutes ago. There is a section in our code, I haven't specified on my staff report here, that the garage must be set back from the front facade of the home. This is a detached garage, and they are proposing a detached garage in front of the house with a space above it. I believe it's office space or something like that. It's not a bedroom or anything. This is a tight property. I'm not sure if there's any other options, but the applicant just requested that we bring it in, even though I don't feel it fully complies with that section.
So I would ask the attorney, 16B 580A, if you could look at that for us. It's regarding garage being set back from the primary. Like, do we have authority to approve projects? And I got it here, I could read it if it's helpful.
I just wrote, must be located behind the front primary walls of the home.
And the word is must. You said?
Yes. I believe I copied that directly from the code.
It doesn't say, it says shall be set back, not must, but shall be.
That's probably better terminology, so I messed that up. So I don't believe that is a decision that can be, I don't know, word modified. Modified by this commission for a project.
I don't know if it's a shall,
But they could request a variance if this was the only place on the property.
if it was a hardship, it was the only place in the property.
You know, can you bring up that code wording, code language? So, yeah, this, the title of it, 16B 580, section A, garages as a subordinate feature.
Right.
So I think the whole idea is that it's not gonna dominate, yeah, and it says garages shall not dominate the structure and shall be subordinate to the residence. Garage walls shall be set back behind the front primary walls of the home. You know, it's what's drawn is
It's right out
this is
front.
this is it's right out front, but it is.
I don't know if you guys can picture that home, but this would essentially block the home from the street.
Yeah, I walk by it through my neighborhood. There's a carport in the side setback currently, and I don't even, you know, that's the spot that it feels like a could fit a garage, but I mean, again, that would be in the side setback. But it would be set back. And it would look, you know, a little bit.
The applicant did say he originally planned to put it over there, but he believed in the side setback would not be permitted, so he put it in the only space within the setbacks he could. That was the applicant.
Yeah. So our options are a variance for a side setback or a variance to put it to.
Well, those are his options.
Right.
You can
Is this,
provide recommendations to the applicant, but
is it a hardship to put it in front if they could put it in the side with, you know, with the variance, because if it is in fact, is this a use? Is this a use variance?
No, it's-
Area
It's
variance?
area variance, because you're giving more space to the garage to come forward. So it's
So not a setback, just area.
Just area.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna look a lot like the gray squirrel A-frame, except it's, the garage isn't right on the street, you know? But it is gonna block the house, it's gonna look a little odd. We're not an architectural review committee per se.
well, that is the function you are doing right now, architectural review.
Yeah.
That is exactly what you do.
Well, we're waiting.
You're the
Yes,
planning and
no.
zoning commission completing architectural reviews.
Anybody got thoughts, Doug?
I think if we move it, it'd probably be better for the whole deal, but
I believe your only options at this point would be approve or deny.
Well, we can't approve without a variance.
So I believe the only option you have right now is to deny it and let the applicant know his options.
Well, I'll make a motion to deny it this time. Is there? And then we'll give them the options after we deny.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there a second? All in favor?
I,
Aye. So options would be move and a variance or a variance for as it sits, correct?
Yes, if you want to provide guidance, which one would you prefer
move
as
it.
this committee?
I would think it would look a little better, but
Yeah.
I'm not the one living next to them having it in my sight.
You know, I mean, looking at street view, it's pretty much would be blocked by the neighbor's garage.
That's not the house.
Is it not?
No.
No, it's the one behind it, right? Is it
It's
not?
down the road.
So that's good over here, I guess.
Well, and then I think the other thing,
It's after the corner. So it's gonna be right.
what time?
Well,
They have to say that's the ordinance.
That's not really, Hilliard, that's the one. That's not really it. That's it.
Is it not showing the addition? Is this,
It's
this
not.
document has completed a master's addition?
Yeah, it looks like it had an addition done to it. Now, that doesn't show the addition.
Because it's right on the corner.
No.
That is it, yeah. Yeah,
I don't like that place.
That's, well, yes, that is the new project.
Maybe it's right,
Yeah.
so it would be right.
Yes.
What was
Especially from this view of
the code number for what you gave?
Well, accessory.
Yeah,
Or 16, or the garage setback.
no, that's the accessory.
16A, 1720.
We need to mention
A2 and
that,
A3.
we need to mention that to him too.
Explain that again.
Well, whatever, when we were to sit down and approve, if we were, I would recommend with a use restriction for 16A, 1720, A2 and A3, you know, because it could, you know, again, we got to acknowledge its potential without authorizing its use. Is it? If you got running water, power,
Yeah, we're one-
you know, habitable space. Yeah, right. So it would be subject to that, in my opinion. And again, just one.
Well, and the access is all within the garage, it's not, you aren't accessing it from the exterior, which I believe you have to do, if it was an ADU, from even that standpoint, which it can't be.
I don't know enough about that.
Yeah, I haven't done a building
Not
plan
finance.
review on it yet. So any living space would require an egress directly to the exterior, not to the garage space.
Correct.
He's calling it attic loft / office. So a loft would not require that, but an office would. So I have to clarify with the applicant what the finished level is in the space.
But it shows a,
And
Show
it
the
is
bathroom.
possible.
it shows a full bathroom. Shower,
Yeah, that doesn't
toilet.
mean a whole lot. Yeah, so we're in a weird gray area where I may end up requiring a direct exterior egress anyway.
Right.
In the building plan review.
Okay, so I guess bring that up along with the variance, and the variance was recommended as moving it.
Well, I have actually another question about a variance. Is the intent to not have the garage being a predominant structure or blocking the road? It's an aesthetic issue. Is that correct? That's why
Yes.
it exists? So if somebody was willing to aesthetically change this structure so it would look like a garage, if you could do that, is that something that we would consider as a variance? That they would change the aesthetic and leave it where it is?
To my mind, if it's detached, you know, there's no way to change a garage from looking like a garage. If it's a shed, it would be limited in size, so it would be very subordinate to the primary dwelling unit. So this being a garage and having a garage door is gonna, no matter what they make it look like, because it's detached, it needs to be subordinate and per our code setback. I feel like, and it's not clear in the code, but I think it's pretty intuitive, at least to me. An attached garage, if it's the first piece that you hit with the vehicle and you park in there and it's attached to a house that sits back from, but it's attached, to me, that's not the same.
Part of the house.
It's part of the house, in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not an architect.
And just going back to the predominance of the garage, you know, ridge height noted at 3 feet taller than the ridge height of the existing house. So that's very much from the road where you're gonna be doing it, it is very much predominant over the house, even with the addition. Yeah, I mean, there was a utility pole in the way, looks like, to move it.
Well, but to me, if you get it, does it have to, yeah, to me, if you get it like right in here, there's a carport somewhere right in here. And I don't know I don't know how that came to be, because it's in the setback and it doesn't look old. I don't know, do you see it?
I do not recall that being there.
I mean, I'd like to have a carport myself.
And I just issued the final for the resident 6-7 months ago, and I do not remember the carport.
Yeah, it's like a timber beam. I walked by here because I'm right there. So I glanced at it, but
maybe we need to set it there, but.
But to me, you know, if you're into a variance and it's not fully set back behind the front wall, like what is the front wall? Again, is it, are we on the right?
No, that's.
No, I was about to say, wait, this stuff is all.
Yeah.
That's all good. You know, here's the house right here. If you drew a line across this corner and it sat right here,
Behind the house.
this is a very interesting. This speaks to our work session later, but this was supposed to be a rear once upon a time. That's why they have 25 on both front rear. Although anyone, you know, we would certainly look at that as a rear setback, not a front.
So, the recommendation, well, not the recommendation, he needs the variance.
They need a variance.
And then ideally, he'd be putting the garage in another location. Right? Is that what we all agreed upon?
I mean, I feel I'm not looking at, you know, topography of the actual site. That garage could fit behind the house within the setbacks. That's likely their yard.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the driveway,
And I believe that's what their septic is.
you know,
Didn't he have to tie into,
Oh, you're right, you did.
cause he had the house sitting on part of the tank or something?
Yeah, you touched the tank, so that.
kitchen.
You're right.
Yeah.
So
he-
back.
you take that, move it
I
here,
remember that got a bit sticky.
There's some sunshine.
but
You're correct on that power.
yeah, it's.
What is our hardship? I mean, I'd love to get the attorney's opinion
Well-
at some point, because I think that's really the crux, what I view as a hardship. And in all the years I've been listening to you talk, it's not necessarily what a hardship is, right?
It's a factual determination based upon a bunch of things, okay? One of them being topography, ability to build on the site that's equal to other people within the same neighborhood. I mean, hardship's supposed to alleviate you from the hardship that you can't use your property like everybody else under basically your neighborhood because of the topography or some other feature that you didn't create that makes it difficult for you to meet the code. And so we grant variances to accommodate that hardship. It's not economic, it's not less expensive for me to do it this way or that way, or more expensive. It's basically something on the site of usually a physical nature that I didn't create, makes it impossible for me to meet the code, and everybody else gets the same use, and I'm not.
But when you say I didn't create, to me, that sounds like existing conditions, but maybe not. Like, what if I had a parcel that had an existing dwelling that I wanted to add on to, but it wasn't in the optimal location? I didn't create the problem, but I can't do what I want. It was existing.
Yeah, and
How do we view
there's
it?
something called privy. If you've taken a house that was built by somebody else, you're as if you were treated as if you were the real owner, the original owner. You bought the house, and it's basically cramped you from the ability to get a garage in there. So that you did create that circumstance.
Because you purchased it, no.
Yeah, your prior owner did,
Right.
and you're privy to that.
That's a very interesting, and I've heard you allude to that throughout the years, and that just changes the view of really what that is,
Yeah.
how that should be viewed.
You know, one way to think about variances is that they shouldn't be given away. They're basically really are to address a problem for that owner. Just because the owner wants to do it a different way and has options and doesn't want to take care of the availability of those options, that's not what a variance is for. Variance is to maintain people to build to the code, and if they can't, then they get rid of it.
Thank you.
So really, we should be denying this and have him be working with the lot that he's got right now.
Yeah,
Well, we did deny
and
it.
that's what
Yeah,
you did.
I mean, but not saying get a variance to put your garage there because that's not
Well, so
really what the variance.
I think there's a couple, solutions. One, like the garage, if we're worried about predominance, the garage was 15 feet lower, or not 15 feet, but like lower than the height instead of, 3 feet taller than the house, where it's
Right.
even in that location, even it being in front, still want to go with a variance because it's not meeting the language of the
But
code.
that's what Bob's saying.
But
We shouldn't be asking him to get a variance for something that he shouldn't be asking for a variance.
But
He has no real hardship.
but he can make an effort to meet the intent of the code and the predominance.
Yeah.
Not making it predominant if it was not as tall. It's like, well, it is in front, but it's not blocking the entire house. It's a smaller garage.
Right, you don't need that second story.
That might like meet the intent of the code. But I mean, looking at the site plan and not knowing the topography, why can't it be on the backside of the house? There's plenty of
Right.
space within the
Well,
setback.
that's why I'm saying, like Bob was just saying, we don't send him for a variance because he's got other options already.
Well, we're not dictating whether he goes for a variance, in my opinion. We're just saying that we have no ability to approve it.
Right.
And that if he's set on doing this, he would be required to approve a variance or to apply for it. Doesn't mean he's gonna get it. I think
But
the
do we
condition
even
was
offer
called
it?
15 Wilderness.
Is that what-
Last one was very different.
Yes.
It was, this is a very challenging lot, and we could see really the hardship with 15 Wilderness. And it was like, yeah, in 15 Wilderness, it was a slam dunk. Here, we're just saying we can't approve it. Your only avenue would be variance, but there's no guarantees.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying. You're not saying to him, we want you to move it over here, move it over there. You're saying you're denied because you didn't meet this code provision. And his
Period.
answer, period.
Period.
And his question to you is, well, what can I do? And you can say, you can redesign so you
Right.
meet the code, or you might be able to apply for a variance if there's no other options for you. Leave it to him and his architects and everybody else he wants to talk to decide how he meets it. He may want to cut a piece of his building down to fit a garage.
That's what
Who
I'm
knows?
saying.
That's up to
That-
him to
it's
decide.
like a forum.
Well,
So you'll pass this on to
And that's
Scott.
exactly why I was asking Scott. I'm gonna, because I know the first thing to say is, well, what should I resubmit? So that's why I wanted a little bit of guidance from you. But I think I'm covered on where everyone's at.
And I guess make it really clear that to go through the variance, that takes time and energy and money. Make it very clear that there is no guarantee with that variance.
Even
Or
if
if he applies.
He needs to show the hardship, if in fact there is one.
Yeah.
So,
It was like, I mean, like I said, looking at this, I'm like, well, there's room right there. Looks like the driveway, there's a utility pole, but like, that looks like potentially could
So he'll come up with something.
fit it behind the house and then it's,
During the variance application, you guys can go deep into those kind of conversations.
Just on this variance discussion, and so if it's a new construction versus an addition, it really changes the variance in that if it's an addition, you bought the property as the property is. And so you knew the constraints of the property, and so it's very different for that versus a new construction. It seems a lot easier to rationalize the new construction variance than somebody that bought a property, because again, you knew the constraints, but although you also knew the constraints of the land when you bought the.
It's far more difficult to get a variance on new construction. Why? Because you have all the options available to how you meet the code. You can move things around, right? When you
Smaller
have a
house,
house that's already there,
yeah.
you're kind of rigidly stuck.
So to the point of the one that we approved, I mean, the guy could have made his house smaller.
Well, here's how that plays out in variance. If you have, everybody in the neighborhood has a 2,000 or 2,500 square foot house. This guy buys a lot, it's vacant, he wants to put a house on there. The only way he meets the code is to build a 1,000 square foot house. He has a hardship because everybody else has two, so he gets to modify the rules a little bit, to give him the same rights that his neighbors have, so that he can modify his new construction.
Thank you.
So, we're ready to move on for the lot line elimination at 166 Mountain View.
I didn't see anything in the packet.
There's only like one sheet, it's just basically a site plan with saying delete this one.
I didn't see.
These are pretty easy.
Yeah,
I make the motion to
I have a
approve.
couple of questions. So, one thing, really important. I know our criteria for, applications requires. The 16C250, I believe, talks about what requirements are necessary for any application. If you could somehow spoon feed us a little bit on legal description, we can certainly find it a lot of times on the site plans, but we're not getting it on your report. We're getting address. It's really helpful to have legal description. I mean, I can find them, I know how to do that. But when we've got 8 projects and we don't get the packet till sometime on Thursday, We have a very short window. So anything, if you could, somehow in your report, give us those legal descriptions on every project, it would be greatly appreciated. That said, you know, it looks like this is one lot on the side of, one side of the Blue River. 166 Mountain View is in fact lot 138, Mountain View Sub. And it backs up to 165 Mountain View Sub, which is on Highway 9. Correct? Is that correct?
I did not review this.
Okay.
I had that empty lot surveyed and I sent that survey to you guys, but I don't know, I didn't know what else to.
And that's
Yeah, no.
fair. That's, I was really talking to our staff.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know if they gave, because every one of our projects, we've got to typically search for that.
Sure.
So Kyle, good question. I'm seeing this, it's the one page with site plan.
I actually don't review these, I
Okay.
generally be building stuff, so this.
Yeah.
One of you two, whoever,
Yes.
like, so what lot line, between what lots? So 166,
165 and 130.
What page in the pack are you guys on?
okay, so it's not,
160.
okay,
Oh,
so it's not actually lot 166, it's 165.
Correct.
Correct. It's
So
166.
vacating the lot line between 165 and 138.
That existing riverbed that's shown, yeah, that is.
Okay.
So the only question I had was, what's the process? Does this get recorded with the county?
Yeah.
And then that's it? I mean, this isn't an exercise, you know, we temporarily drop the lot line so that we can reduce taxes. And then we try to
No,
subdivide.
you can't do it. Once you
No,
do it, you
once you
never
do
get
it,
turned
Where in the
around.
code does it say that?
Huh?
It doesn't say that. in the-
I think with the.
It was
Well,
usually be in our
I
code.
know that, I couldn't find it. Why I asked.
Minimum lot size 80,000 square feet, so if they can join these, they will not be able to re-subdivide because they will not be able to meet the minimum. size.
Yeah, barring moratorium, because that's a whole other discussion. Just strictly, we're going off minimum lot size.
Is it in our code, Bob?
What are you asking?
That once you
Pork chop.
eliminate a lot,
I-
like,
I
you
know
would
what
not
they want.
subdivide.
I know.
I can do that.
You want the long answer or short?
Want the quick answer, we don't know that's right.
Yeah, there was a desire at the time when building code was done,
Or on 138.
if you consolidate lots, take
165.
lot line out. You would enter in an agreement that says to the town, that
That's vacant.
it's a commit to the town, it would never
The one
re-subdivide.
Highway 9 is vacant.
Okay. And you're on.
That was the
I'm
intent.
on, we never did it.
Well, we really never, we only had one, to my knowledge.
Right.
I do.
But if you're consolidating two lots that are much more in excess of the square foot needed to have two lots, it makes no sense that you have to commit that you won't subdivide in the future because you have these two acre lots.
Right,
But if you have less than
80,000.
the 80, 160,
Then you're locked in.
then you're locked in anyway. You don't need the agreement.
Right,
That's why we haven't been.
I got you.
I'll make a motion to approve the, lot line elimination at 166 Mountain View Drive.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Did you guys receive an email for 12 Blue Rock?
I did. That,
Did it come to town emails or?
yeah, came to the town email.
Yes, yeah, that was.
I can document.
If you wanna share with us, do you, it's not having.
No.
Rich, come on over here.
So the major revision is obviously the site plan.
Roof issues.
And the roof. Yeah.
No.
I might have to, because I'm not gonna.
No, we're on the top two. So, yeah, roof pitches. Work right there.
This open is entry, but I guess you can.
I mean, it does have a gable over that.
Right. Sounds like the burner.
Got you.
Make that. Oh, so.
Get on the landing. Setbacks.
Okay, that's.
The red lines denote setback.
Not, you know.
There's our 5 foot. off of,
This is Blue River Republic or office.
Blue River office and then something.
That should be able to. Thanks.
So, yeah. Pull it back, pull the setback. There's parking space, pull the setback. So the locations, looking at setback. Yeah, it's within the river easement.
You were saying within the setback, outside of the setback.
Oh, yes, outside the setback. Within the boundaries.
Right.
Of the setback. You know, so it's not, it's not sticking out there.
We're in.
Yeah, Blue Rock Drive. And, and this looks like, so, they are going off of access road easement,
I can't
on the
I
roads,
can't zoom in here. Bear with me for a second.
more onto the adjoining lot. So 15 foot from access easement center line, 25 foot from the edge of that easement, so that's all compliant.
Well, we didn't tell them to change anything, so I didn't expect it. I just looked at it and I was like, this is hard for Bridge.
What we? 612, 412. Yeah, 2.
So that's all, everything's good there.
It's 212. But not really dominant as far as aesthetics go. 612, 412. 612.
Edge of wetlands.
Yeah, the home does back right into wetlands.
Do we have a wetlands delineation?
We do.
Is it part of this packet here? I just got it.
It should have been in your original packet.
I did not see
That's the
wetlands
212.
delineation in that packet.
The slope of the injury, but aesthetically, it's definitely not dominant.
I've got it if you guys need it to.
It would be helpful.
Sure.
The delineation.
Yeah,
Is it outside of the wetlands?
It's outside.
Yeah, it is shown on the.
We're right up next to it for sure. We built it as such, but definitely we're very cognizant of the wetlands.
There's. So here
I
it's
see
showing
what
edge
I-
of
I see what I see.
edge of wetlands, so the wetlands actually encroaches tighter than the river easement boundary. Yeah. Probably due to the beavers.
Do you see that?
But yeah, so there's right there, but that's,
Zach, he's across the water.
Oh, he's on that side.
I have the map.
See anything else on that?
Right.
Yeah, it looks like that's
How many square feet is this one got? Yeah, because we don't have the updated report. I don't think it's.
You don't even have the updated report?
I don't think I see it. I'm just.
So I have it down as a total combined with garage 4161.
Yeah, this is sewer. Yes.
Regarding the wetlands, I don't know if you have an updated report. It says majority of the lot contains wetlands. Basic mitigation plan is provided. Construction disturbance plan is required, and applicant is working on providing.
Most of the pitches are for.
During construction, do you
There-
do
there's a
any
few-
monitoring
well,
of compliance with wetland?
We do, as we're there, we usually make a flag off where the wetlands are, but they don't have to draw tractors there. The plan is gonna be dictating where soil can be piled. Often people like to encroach their soil storage into the wetlands, so we're very cognizant of that. So yes, as we're there periodically, we are monitoring the wetlands district.
So there's basically be some sort of,
This
barrier
is, I don't see it in the situation, I just see.
No, typically the construction, the plan for it usually just indicates flagging, it's just to delineate it, there's no actual barrier or anything. They're gonna be digging right next to it, so they're gonna have water issues, they're gonna have to probably, brace it potentially, some sort of T-post type thing to keep it from collapsing.
Foundations.
They have a lot of work to do, because they're so close to it.
You know,
I'm thinking a lot about this, that, there's a construction, I live up here, and, I walk by the place, there's garbage in the creek, there's dirt in the creek, there's lime all piled up 3 feet from the creek.
We have several problem projects near creeks that we have been actively attempting code enforcement on.
And it's really the Army Corps of Engineers' responsibility there to enforce that, or is it?
No. That's a bunch of different organizations. Army Corps only manages the Yaxle River now. So if we needed to, we could get them involved, but we like to handle that more internally. Just like.
do we have any ability to require a building footprint as staked? I know after permitting, 16B 15110 requires staking of corners, but at this point, it's hard to, we just see a line on paper about what edge of wetlands. There's a tremendous amount of disturbance that happens with foundation and slab.
What are they from here to the water? It's water.
Well, but then you don't, that's not a setback that we.
No.
Oh, you wanna see it?
Yeah, I mean, that is there.
Yeah, we currently don't have setbacks from wetlands either.
Yeah, no.
Construct in wetlands.
I will point out, if I can find it, 16B 430B5, the town has the ability to protect wetlands as well as 16170. Well, no, I'll strike that, but we definitely want to protect wetlands, but where do you want to know? From the edge of the structure?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Which point, this or
Yeah.
this?
That's probably closer. But anywhere in.
There's a corner probably with it, but.
Well, there's
The wetlands.
the
yeah.
wetlands is in.
Wetlands is kind of treated like a utility easement where you can actually do some work in there as long as it's very well planned and restored.
I don't know, it's 12. Well, I can just measure it here. So that's approximately 20. So 20 times 2.
40 feet.
It says
That's that close.
That's close to the actual water.
so,
That's a good answer.
I guess I'm on the same page.
but I mean, what's the
you don't want that
justification? This kind of blew me up because we didn't have this.
Good thing is we have rock wetland.
Right.
So, wetlands.
I mean, as long as they're not building in the wetland.
Yeah, is that how you understand it really well?
It's up to the edge.
What should keep your
Roof
roof over
over
his
hangs.
If somebody wants to call the Army Corps of Engineers, the town, if they're over a flag line, I'm sure you'll hear about it.
They are permitted to build up to the wetlands, right, according to our codes.
According to our code, yes.
And the Army Corps of Engineers, as of a couple of years ago, they don't regulate wetlands anymore. They only regulate water surface water, moving water. So the wetlands falls into some hodgepodge state regulations they just passed here in the past couple of years. And then as a town, we just don't allow construction in wetlands.
I don't see how to build that foundation without disturbing the wetlands. And I'd say that 16B 1320, wetlands protection, allows us to take a closer look at that. You know, I don't
What
see
does that
how
code section say? You wanna read that?
16B 1320. You know, and I'm caught here because, you know, we didn't get this drawing until right now, but I don't see how you build that foundation without disturbing that wetlands. We don't have setbacks from it, but how do we protect it?
So I'm under the impression, the way it works in other areas is they can disturb it as long as they have a very well documented plan to restore it.
It's Colorado state law is, not to interrupt you guys. I'm the homeowner, it's my wife. I'm also gonna be a general contractor. I work as a general contractor by trade, full time. And so, yeah, this will be the cleanest, job site you've ever seen. There won't be anything thrown in the creek. There won't be stacks of drywall. Everything will be handled very professionally. We're right off the highway. We know we're gonna be under scrutiny of everybody. So, we do know that building up to the wetlands does pose, some raised eyebrows, I guess, if you will. We've done our homework and we understand the state law is who regulates the wetlands, and I believe it's an eighth of an acre they give you to temporarily disturb it with a remediation plan to how you will restore it. And so we've spoken with our excavation and our foundation contractors, and so we believe we're only going to have to cross the line to dig our pit for, it's going to be a slab foundation, and so we're going to have to cross the wetlands line by roughly like 2 or 3 feet. We won't know until we actually start pushing dirt, but once that happens, it will be way under the state's regulations of what we're allowed to impact, and it'll all be put back into, I mean, part of our aesthetic for the house is going to be that we're on the wetlands. We have no intention of disturbing it. We want it to remain beautiful, and we're here to answer any questions you have.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see in that section, Bob? Anything, or do you not have it?
I have it. I'm not sure what you're asking me to do.
Well, I'll tell you, I live on that pond.
Okay.
And so, you know, I don't have anything against development of that parcel because I would expect someone to build a home. I think the size of this home is excessive for that particular parcel based on the constraints, you know, especially environmental. But this is my opinion. I know from experience the lot directly across and to the right, when they built that, it sits well above. When they dug a test pit on that lot, it filled. It was like 80 feet of water, and that was up. The pond is at its lowest level it's been. I've lived there over 20 years. However, you know how wet that is. That's gonna be sopping wet. So I struggle with, you know, I see definition of buffer. Can we apply a buffer, you know, to protect ponds, wetlands, floodway, et cetera? To me, I don't think it's an appropriate sized home for that parcel. There's a reason that parcel sat undeveloped for as long as it did. And, you know, the reason it's developable at all is because we have sewer, which is great. It's great for you, and I'd like to see you build a house. I just don't know that this is the right size, but I don't know, I don't have any tools because I didn't have the ability to do any homework beforehand. And so I'm not trying to strike you down per se, but I'd like to see an appropriate house built here. And I don't know if this is it.
I guess I would just, you know, one, say I hope to be a good neighbor and, you know, a good friend on top of that. I don't know that I'm familiar with the size of house requirements. We're at 3,700 square foot. There is a garage in addition to that. We meet all the building standard requirements, and we've submitted for building plan before with the same square foot of footprint of house, and based on the feedback that we got, it had to do, the reason we failed our permit application was due to the roof pitches not complying, and also the setbacks being drawn by the engineers based off the lot lines and not the right of ways. We corrected the things that we were told to correct. We spent $5,000 doing so with the engineers. We got the foundations re-engineered. The contractors, the subcontractors that we have working on this, that are doing the foundation and excavation, they're local guys. It's a Gear 8 Concrete is doing our foundation. Not trying to name drop. I don't, need, the credit, but they, I believe they have done work for a lot of people, maybe, that, in this area, and probably a lot of people that you guys know. They're a reputable company. We've checked out all of the requirements to, build the size of home that we've, had engineers draw up twice, and even submitted for plans once, and nothing's been told to us. So we.
Well, just to touch on that. So we never provided a formal review. This came to us in a, hey, while we're talking about setbacks, let's look at this. It wasn't, I don't recall this being a formal application when we saw it a couple of months ago. But regardless, we did give some limited feedback. I see a lot of ways, 16B 440, other encumbrances and limitations together with setbacks and easements, federally designated wetlands, federally designated floodways, floodplains. For me, it's not a good fit, but I'm only one voice here. We didn't see you at our last meeting. We couldn't give you really any feedback. And it wasn't a work session, right? There was no formal work session to discuss specifics. We saw a project and it was, well, how do we view these setbacks? And we're like, wow, this looks crazy. Look at the roof. I can't say whether you can or can't definitively at this moment. But for me, I struggle with it, I'm just one of.
No, I completely understand your concern, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. I've got, I can't hold your opinion against you. We see a lot of houses that are as big and some that are bigger than ours that have been built in recent years in the river. I know contractors that have built these houses. I've talked to them. I've gotten feedback from them on how to build ours. We've networked on using subcontractors, and I could give you specific addresses if you want. So I think I personally feel it would be unfair to be held to different standards than other homes that are currently being built in Blue River, even ones that are getting CO this year.
Is it Jeremy?
Yeah.
Jeremy, just to kind of spin off this, like looking at this, there's the concern of like it coming up touching the wetlands, but as our discussion and your input as well is like, you can go right up to the wetlands. So I don't see anything on your plan that is not meeting our code. I think what Dan's expressing and, other people may hold an opinion, the history of Blue River, these lots are small. They were, they were selling A-frames with a 1/4 acre lot. So, much smaller houses can fit on these lots and not get as close to the wetlands, not get as close to the setbacks, et cetera. But what you brought in front of us, I don't see anything personally that we have any authority to deny you on this permit, unless anybody else has some input. I appreciate your acknowledgement of the wetlands and hope that you do take that seriously, and have a good plan to remediate any damage and restore any effects of the construction on the wetlands. But yeah, personally, I don't see anything that is not meeting code. The roof pitch, change is appreciated and I think complies with our ordinance there. Moving it to the setback, even allowing for a parking space within the boundaries, in front of the garage. Anybody else have any comments?
I guess I would agree with Dan's concerns about the wetlands. How to handle that at this time, I guess he's within them.
How was the river easement transposed? Can we ask? Do you have any idea how the engineer transposed that river easement?
They,
Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no.
I'd love to have the engineer here with me. That's something that, I kind of rely on their expertise for. Everything, they spend a lot of time working on the limits of the river easement, I do know. And I do know that everything's done in compliance with all requirements. I couldn't tell you the.
I think I know.
Okay.
I think it was pulled from the original map of the subdivision. That was.
So that's what I was
Is
gonna
that
say. I
correct?
pulled up
Okay.
the subdivisional plat from the 1960 or whatever. The same one we had to discuss about a year ago about the guy that wanted to go over it. It's a really big map and it just kind of has that line. I just compared it to their lot that appeared to match. He went into much more detail in his drawing as an engineer, but it appeared to match.
Yeah, I mean, I got the plat map myself, and I don't know that, it may actually work in your favor otherwise. I can't say definitively because, we don't go the distance of measuring that. But I would hope, it does not match up based on what I can see on lot 20. Lot 20 appears to pass right through this corner here. This is the river easement, this dash. And it may or may not be the same, but it does not appear to be the same line here. I mean, it'd be a simple overlay, but it's not something we get paid to do.
Remind me, how do we regulate the river easement?
The river easements,
Not permissible.
yeah, you can't build it.
No, is that something we regulate?
We do to our.
Well, we acknowledge it and recognize the river easement, and it's up to the applicant to illustrate the lot lines, the setbacks, and all
Distances from the river easement.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say definitively, so I'm gonna leave it at that, like some people with this subdivision.
The river is that community's river easement, and we accept that.
Almost looks like it's not the, right through the corner, they've gotta go through a little bit closer, which actually would be a burden, but it makes me question.
Then there's that little jog.
Right, it makes me question if I see a discrepancy. The only way to do that, because it's not a measurement, is to overlay. We'll drag it closer. Again, I'm only one voice here, so go ahead, Tim, I apologize.
No, I'm leaving it at that, I just, as long as, I don't know how you're gonna get down almost 5 feet in that area without being flooded out.
So I appreciate the concern. We do. I mean, it's a concern of ours. I have pretty detailed info and pictures from when we dug the exploratory pits for the soil samples. We opted to do pits with a mini excavator versus a drill rig, and what we found is that in a wet year, so we did this last June. I not overly wet, but a normal roughly year. We ran into water, very light water. I mean, couple, an inch or two of water at about 5 foot. So when we were working on the design of this house, we looked at all the different foundation options. We looked at crawl space. We're like, no, that's going to be too wet. There's no way to mitigate the moisture in there. We've got a local damp proofing guy out of Fairplay. Our concrete contractors, Gear Concrete here out of Frisco or Silverthorne. And Rocks and Walls is our excavation contractor. They're here local as well. We've got a budget put in for water pumping during the time of construction if needed. We believe that with as dry as a year as we're having,
to do it.
yeah, this is the year to do it. I mean, it is. we're not taking that lightly, and we're also doing a slab on grade foundation with damp proofing, versus trying to do a basement or a crawl space.
We can require that the wetlands are reflagged prior to construction.
Yes, I'm gonna require a pretty detailed plan, probably like 100 pages, nice site plan of where they're storing dirt, how they're cutting into it, how they're gonna repack the dirt, has to be relayed back in a certain order. How they're gonna keep it from collapsing while they have a 5-foot hole dug next to it. I'm gonna require all that.
Okay.
And you're aware, that's what I'm
Absolutely,
expecting?
yeah. Okay. And we've got that plan, just so you know. I believe when we discussed that being a requirement, we're completely on board. We've got a detailed plan started. I believe our conversation, correct me if I'm wrong, was basically that we will have that before we start digging. And
Yeah, before we issue the actual building permit.
Okay.
This is still architectural review.
okay,
So after this, if it passes, you resubmit your full package for energy code, mechanical code, all that. And then at that time, we're not gonna need that plan forward. So
okay, no problem. Yeah, we'll make it as detailed as you need. We're happy to have our wetlands delineation contractor come back out and reflag prior to digging and be in compliance with everything we need to do.
I'll make a motion to approve 12 Blue Rock Drive as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Well, and this is, I'm sorry, do you mind me asking, I guess, just so we kind of know where we stand leaving this meeting, with the, some motions to approve, one motion to deny. Is it a majority vote or is it,
Yes.
okay.
majority of
Okay,
passes,
so
if you are approved,
we're okay for review, okay.
resubmit your drawings for a full building plan review, so energy code, mechanical, electrical, and we issue permit.
Through the same portal?
Yes, we're emailing directly with the revised drawings.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Hey, I look forward to being a good neighbor and a good friend to all of you guys. I really do, especially you on the water. No, you're not gonna have to worry about it. So thank you for your time and consideration. Look forward to meeting you as well. Yeah, have a good night, guys.
Take care.
Appreciate that. I guess you all need a minute to kind of gather yourself for the setback conversation, or you want to hop right into it?
Bob looks like he's ready to roll.
I was born ready, guys.
I will just say, Chad, please don't take this the wrong way, but we gotta have the right info.
Yeah.
Like, that was a real disadvantage. If I had seen that, I'm not trying to stuff them specifically. I'll tell you right now, if they hit 2 inches of water, no, there's no chance. I don't care how low the water.
Well, that's what I think.
I'll tell you right now, the lot behind me, which sits way above it, you could do a cannonball. It was 8 feet deep in water. So they're gonna be in the water. This is not appropriate. It's one of the things I was gonna talk about tonight. I just didn't see that coming. Had I saw that coming, I'd have tried to build a different approach on it. Doesn't mean I would have won, all right? And I can't fault anyone. But that's not an appropriate use of land, in my opinion. That's what land use and planning is all about.
I'd like to comment on that. One of the things that when we did the 2023 land use code, one of the things that I remember instructing the board about is that the areas of environmental protection were extremely thin. We didn't have much. Okay? We didn't put a lot into the code to protect environmental qualities like floodplains and floodways. So it was something that we always wanted to come back to once we got the code approved. So what you're striking on is the fact that we need something.
We need to build on it.
We need to have better regulations to address issues like this so that they don't build essentially on the edge of the wetlands. Setbacks would help. So would studies required for them to prove that there's not going to be water in the hole, so to speak. We could do more, but it's not in the current code.
I think it is. I mean, our code talks about wetlands delineation and reports. But if you noticed on 201 Creekside in the attorney's report, and I don't know if you read it or not, but he was talking, I think it was 201 Creekside. They were talking about wetlands and they were saying that, because I think Kyle had mentioned they didn't have a wetlands report. And it's like, well, it's up to the town of Blue River to provide it. I don't know that it necessarily says that in the land use code.
It says we're gonna track the state and federal mapping and have that available here in town, is what it says. But I know we don't do that. That's why I'm saying we're very thin on regulating those kind of issues.
You know, I'm not trying to set people way back off wetlands because some of these lots are difficult. I own a couple of them. And, you know, and we have river easements for some limited protection. But this lot, it's wet. Like where they're showing the edge of wetlands, it's sopping wet. Like it's bad. This is bad.
Is there anything that you could do, Kyle, that they're gonna stake it, but when they start digging, that you require them to call for an inspection so you can see, well, you have to do a footer inspection.
Yeah, I'll be there right after they complete excavation anyway for the footer.
Cause is the lot big enough to store much soil?
I'm not, you know, you could certainly find a way.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say they can't. They're gonna have a lot of challenges, but, you know, again, it's an appropriate lot for a small home. This is not, in my opinion, this is a bad use.
And Dan, you mentioned the size of the home. I may or may not disagree with you, but he struck on it real subtly because he's a builder, developer. He struck on it real subtly, but the point he tried to make is the fact that we don't have regulations that limit the size of the house.
Right.
Totally.
If you're within the buildable area and you're within the height,
Right.
you could build that sucker as big as your lot will let you.
So and then going back to, and that's why, you know, why I felt like we had to approve it. He's done his due diligence to comply with the rules that we have on the books. If we had a setback from the river easement or from wetlands delineation.
Yeah, and this was the county, they have a setback.
They have a buffer. They call it a buffer, and
Well,
in ours,
either way,
in our definitions,
we
we have the definition of buffer. So to me, I feel like if we had time in advance and we sat with the attorney, we probably could have said, well, it's questionable, but it's within reason. I think it was within reason, based on buffer, wetlands. Like I cited a handful of code articles, and I think if we'd have pieced them together in advance, we could have said, not really great. And then it would have been up to them to prove it otherwise. You know, this was a big loss. I think this is a really big failure here, environmentally.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, but I think we've also approved things that are up against creeks and things like that. Like Gordon mentioned, we've done that. It just happens to be right next door to you. Well,
But I've looked at a bunch of them. And you know, there was one
we've approved.
There was one that I remember was an A-frame or something that fell down on Graceville. Anyway, we got an attorney here. Right? That house ended up way close to that little creek bed, Pennsylvania Creek, I think it is.
It wouldn't be happening in Tahoe, would it?
What's that?
That close to water in Lake Tahoe.
What about it?
It wouldn't be happening
Oh, if there's old dried up creek
Well, we're
there.
definitely not Lake Tahoe.
there. Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
The Tarn is not even close to Lake Tahoe.
I think
No, but I mean the regulations there for.
Well, they did that a long time ago, and I think they limited a lot of those. But at one point, if it was an old dried up looking creek, you were not building on that lot.
Right.
I think it goes back to the point Bob brought up. It's like, you know, if we want better,
We should tighten
if
it
we
up.
want to tighten it up, this is, you know, another thing that, you know, us as BZ, the trustees aren't gonna come up with this.
No,
If we're seeing issues, this is an issue, and I don't think we have the teeth to.
But the remaining
deny it.
lots are all gonna be like this.
The
Well,
one,
the scrape,
remaining lots.
the scrape
Yeah, they're
rebuild,
all like
so this is something.
Agrees, and like you said, they haven't been
You know,
built.
And this-
Yeah,
and
I
this-
think a buffer, but no, I wouldn't put it off of the river easement. I would put it off of the wetland.
Yeah, so but this could go right into, you know, our discussion about setbacks, and do we wanna, you know, create a definition? Or, you know, another, I don't know how you would word it, but like, that, you know, the setback would also be measured off of wetlands delineation. Like, it's probably not a lot of language to add that into the setbacks.
No, it's not a lot to add a setback from the wetlands or from the line, whatever you want to call the line. that's not a problem. But if you want to go further as far as addressing the environmental impacts, because people will come for variances. Okay, if you start measuring a setback, especially a significant setback off the water line, you're gonna have people come, hey, I can't put a house on here because the line's too far in my property. So they're gonna be asking for variances. So the next level of regulation is to, and you don't have to you don't have to reinvent the wheel here. You can find any number of really good setups in other municipalities that regulate environmental concerns like wetlands and setbacks and way in which you manage it. You don't have to go it alone. I mean, if you want something really, really, really strict, go talk to Boulder. They've got some of the most difficult.
Yeah, they got 100 people going around.
They have 100 people on their staff. Yes, exactly right. I'm not saying to use that. I'm just saying that that's the most extreme. All the way down the line, you can find somebody's regulation that will fit you as far as how much you want to do on regulating wetlands. What we have right now is very minimal.
So if we're seriously considering tackling this, one suggestion that I want to put forth, and I had suggested this actually a couple of years ago, as I started learning more about planning and learning more about wetlands, is that I don't really know a lot about wetlands. And I contacted Colorado State in Fort Collins, and they had some folks there, and I was going to try to get somebody to come in and speak to us to help educate us, and I was told to stay in my lane, not by you, but by others at the time, because, you know, we all live here, we love this environment. You know, I want to be fair and reasonable for people to develop their land, and I also want to try to protect the community. But to do that, I feel like I need more information. For example, you know, we're following the federal wetland plats or maps. You know, when was that done? Is that even accurate? Is that a good map to follow? I don't know. Maybe this thing is archaic. Maybe it floods every year, to your point. You know it because you live there. You know, and you know, so anyways, I would propose, and I'd be happy to try to arrange it if you guys would be interested, to get somebody from the university come and educate us about wetlands before we start choosing what set of rules we want to implement here.
You know,
If nobody wants that, that's fair too.
You know, that we should have a work session.
But to get somebody in here to educate us, I mean, this is a really technical, complicated, historical, blah, blah, blah issue. I'm clue, you know, wetlands, there's water there. Okay, well, what else? I don't know, you know, what does it mean? I don't know. What should we have a buffer, a 10-foot buffer, a 50-foot buffer? I don't know.
Yeah, I like it. Yes, I think it's a future work session. I don't know that we have to roll this into this immediate setback discussion, but I would be more than happy to go about it however we choose, you know, because I think it's important to protect.
Would it be valid for Bob to send us some of the verbiage that he's talking about that might work well for us? Or?
Well,
I don't know.
there's federal law that changes every time the wind blows a different direction based on court cases. And then there's what we want to call a wetland. Right. And there are definitions of wetlands that have the appropriate soils, water, and vegetation. And that's kind of the common practice. Right. The court cases get into navigability and things like that, but other municipalities will say a wetland is a wetland if it meets these three criteria. If we find those three criteria, then it's incumbent upon the contractor, the consultant that the applicant hires to follow those criteria and say, I went out and did this. Here's what you guys call a wetland, and here's where I drew the line. And then we have to take that person's word for it. That's generally how it works.
Or you hire a consultant to do the delineation based upon criteria you set, which some communities do, not as small as the river.
Yeah.
But some go out and hire a consultant to come in and map out wetlands, your whole town. That's the line. And then the developer's going to he'd argue with you about where the line should be drawn. But your line is the line to start with.
Yeah. Overlay from the 60s, that could be.
Well, that's not even, that was river easement.
Right.
I was looking at that because there was a discrepancy on his plan versus what I can see. I can see the corner passing right through an angle, and it doesn't on their plan. I don't have a subscription to AutoCAD anymore, but it would be $70 expense to just say, oh, I want to look at it. And I could take that and overlay it, and I'd be like,
But
oh,
with
you're
that
doing
said,
bad. It doesn't,
it looks like they have it, if anything, based on
potentially
that,
in there.
they actually encumbered themselves more.
But the reason,
Oh.
when you see a problem, you gotta wonder if the problem exists elsewhere, you know? Like, did they just arbitrarily draw a line? That's what I'd be worried about. Because, you know, I don't know that it's really 40 feet. It looked like it was 40 feet from this corner to here is what we measured, and I don't think it really is. Edge of water.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going down the rabbit hole, but I wouldn't be opposed. I think it's really important, and it's worth discussing, you know.
This is like, you know, most of the lots that I've seen, the river easement encumbers the lot more so than the actual wetlands.
Totally.
This one actually is reversed, where the wetlands actually encroaches into the property further than the river easement has drawn, but you know, what, 60 years? It's the beavers have changed some things, so.
Well, and that's why I think that the standard for wetland delineations is generally 5 years. And if it's 5 years or older,
It's not valid.
normally the Army Corps of Engineers would say it's not valid. Go out and freshen it up at least.
Right.
Document that you've taken another look at it. Might be the exact same boundary,
And
but
they're getting smaller because of climate change.
I can't remember what the county does. They have a buffer. And I remember if it's 10 or 20 or 15, it's right in there. And so you just can't disturb within that. You know, and it's just a little bit of a protection. And
You know, and that might be as simple as that. If we had language like that, you need a, you know, 2-foot buffer, 4-foot buffer that you cannot disturb.
some buffer to keep so that when you're digging foundation, you're not. Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's.
We had one in the past that I remember they said they were gonna hand dig. I don't remember where.
But that doesn't matter,
That.
Yeah.
you know, I mean.
Right, no,
We
it
got
doesn't.
the beach and do it with a shovel or your hand.
Yeah.
That
Still build the
the
water.
triangle has some rivers that they somehow, it's like, how are you gonna set these beams cantilevered?
Yeah.
Over the river easement without
Right.
disturbing the river easement?
Long story short, it sounds like this is a item for a future work session.
Yes.
And we will proceed accordingly, so.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree, and if you could bring it up until we say, yeah, that's when we'll do the work session, you know, next month, mention it and see.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's a time when we don't have a lot on the books.
And between Chad and Bob, if there is some like examples of
Yeah.
language in other municipalities that would be effective and simple. You know,
Or even how the county.
Copy and paste.
Yeah, start with the
Yeah,
county.
exactly.
We'll
Yeah,
start with
so-
the county,
exactly.
check the others in the area.
Yeah, I mean, if the county has some language that would be reasonable for us to adopt, that, you know, the builders and subcontractors are already used to those codes and regulations, it would be easy to justify and easy for trustees to understand.
one other feature before we jump into setbacks. I'd like to get ahead of similar to how we handled roofs and now setbacks. I think it would be beneficial to the trustees if P and Z took a look at the language surrounding the moratorium on subdivisions.
Please.
And so I'd like to go to the board and ask them if they would be opposed to us taking that up. And that would be similar. We would go through a couple of meetings here, come up with something working with you, and then propose it. Because I know that's needed to really end around now, and we didn't. Around
A year
April is
ago.
what we talked about. I remember hearing April.
But we
So-
had to, and one expired on some term, that was for the change state. That's a different.
No, I'm talking just
You're
in
talking about
general, like the
land.
discussion was really needed to, yeah, that was the development of 1 acre parcels.
Yeah, we need to address that.
So if no one's opposed to that, could I bring that forward to the board?
It's going to executive session at the next meeting
Okay,
to let the board know what the legal issue is with regard to it. You sat through that presentation before.
in my mind, I still think it's simple. I know you and I talked at length about it, but you know, to me, R1 can't be subdivided maybe, other than minor. or plat revision, something. But major is strictly reserved for annexations, which is annexation agreement regardless, doesn't matter, but also transitional district.
There's a lot of ways to address it.
I feel like that's so simple. It's like a couple sentences. Boom. So, we'll be in that executive session.
Well, maybe Bob will have it all solved by
There you go.
next month.
Anyway,
Are you gonna be attending the BOT meeting on the 21st?
I'm not, because I think I'm going on spring break. That's spring break. I would love to, but they wouldn't have me at executive session.
They could, and I might recommend it.
Maybe I can call in. I'll have to look. I think I'm out of town.
Well, you can't call into executive session, but.
Thank you. I think I'm out.
All right, you're
I
out.
would love to be part of
Tap out, Dan.
But to me, transitional, allowed.
Yeah.
That's the way.
I'll throw this out as we leave the issue. Transitional zone district has no minimum lot size.
Right,
That's a problem.
it is.
We fielded requests both about transitional and the subdivision moratorium in the last 2 months of being here. So it's a topic. It's a topic people are interested in. So the ball's rolling.
Yeah. So I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel and change zone districts of all existing. There were lots of ways, but all right, so let's move on to setbacks. So I knew even before we went like marathon here, that we'd be done a while back. And I didn't prepare a whole bunch because we had such a heavy agenda.
Can I start, Dan?
Totally. Yeah, please.
When you flagged this issue, and I was thinking about what you were saying, you got some pushback from me because I knew what the regulations said, what they intended to say, and you were kind of going in a different direction. But in going back and looking at 2025-02, which is when we tried to start measuring back from the prescriptive easement, and then looking back at the 23 code and even looking at the old code, I think the best way to address the issue that you're raising is to start fresh. Don't worry about trying to manipulate the language that you see here. Say what it is you all want to do. How do you want to measure setbacks? And then we'll write that up.
That's fair. So I think it's very confusing because we touch on it in a couple, you really need to look in like 3 places, right? You look in the zone district, then you gotta go to the 16.320 definitions, and then you're looking at, I don't know if it's 16.430, doesn't matter. You're going to 3 places to piece it together. Really, the tables under the zone district should say it, period. So front setback, hypothetically, once upon a time, up until 2025-02, they were essentially 40 feet from the front property line. Because it was 15 plus 25, except in River Shore subdivision.
Maybe that's the solution.
It is.
A different property line to make it all 40.
We could make it all 40 unless there's a town road easement, then it's 25 from town road easement. And there's the solution, right?
Yeah, and what you gave to me, which I appreciate all the work you did to identify the various subdivision differences, which was really illuminating for me to see how much the road deviates, the actual road deviates from the road easement, the private easement. It creates a lot of problems. It's hard to regulate that when you have the road differing, going into somebody's front yard and not in their front yard, and down the street. It's really clumsy to try to figure out what the setback should be in a uniform way. And I always say 40 feet, always 40 feet, because then you have somebody who's got a 60-foot, 40-foot street in their front yard. And then you got to measure 40 feet from there. They're losing 90 feet basically from their property line. So that's a rarity, but that could happen. Right. And so I think we have to start with what the intent of the setback, especially for the front setback, is basically to push homes back away from the traveled portion of the road so that cars don't go to the front living room, okay? And there is some spacing and some character given to the neighborhood. Right. If people build on the road and they build back and on the road back, it kind of messes the neighborhood up. The uniformity is a big issue for character and environmental quality too. And so the idea is that you push the house back some distance from the edge of the traveled portion of the real right of way, wherever that happens to be. That was the intent that we talked in 2023 with the board about. But we also have the clumsiness that is this private easement that was designed to be a private easement owned by the people who live in that subdivision for the road. Problem is, no one built a road on that easement. whoever built the road, which was probably the town back in the day in the '60s, laid it out as they thought it would be, thought it should be. Probably used some topography decisions to make it. That's why it's not in the right place. When you call it, it's not in the right place. It's on the subdivision map. Okay, and that's clumsy. I don't know of any other communities that have this problem except one little one I worked with. It's not as bad as this community has as far as the road. So we've got to decide, what do you want to do, knowing that you've got a private easement that the road's not built on in many areas and will never be built on. For it to be built on, for that private easement that's shown on the plat maps to be built on, would require everybody in the subdivision to consent. It's not going to happen. Plus, you don't need to build a road because you already have one, right? Except in a rare instance where a new road might be put in. But that's how hard it is going to be to build on that private easement. So it's kind of the private easement is just a fake line, if you will, on the map. But the question for you all is, how do you want to, and this guy's most experienced on the issue, how do you want to measure that setback to maintain what the goal is to push houses back off the travel portion of the road?
But even if you took the most extreme position, where you say the setback for a given lot is the most onerous of these different easements, or there's always the variance process that somebody can go through. And so if that, you never know how many lots it's going to affect unless you go and measure every single lot. Thank you, Dan, for all the work that you did there. But again, you have the easement process.
And Dan and I talked about this, and I think we agree that you don't have to do the clumsy hardship easement. You can do an administrative process. So if somebody has a problem, it goes to the manager who makes a call on whether or not the road should be here or the setback should be here or here. So it's easy for the people who are encumbered with a problem to get remedy very quickly, because it doesn't have to be for character. It doesn't mean that every house has to be 40 feet. Okay, it just means that houses need to be pushed back some distance to maintain that character. One might be because of a variance 30, one might be 40. That's fine. You're not going to see much difference in the community when you start doing those modifications. So letting him decide an administrative variance to make that 40-30 to accommodate a problem is not going to upset the character of the community.
I just would jump in there, nothing against Chad or anybody sitting in that seat. I don't like the idea of one individual making that call. I think that administrative review should be some sort of classification where it's a lightweight review of this commission to look at it, and we get a look at that. We're looking at the neighborhood where the road is, because a lot of these people aren't showing where the road is. It's very clear to me, based on what our requirements are in 16C250, what you're supposed to submit, and it should show town road easement, platted easement. We should be able to see all that real clear as day on any of these, and we're not always getting it. But I still think that this commission should get a look and say, yeah, you know what? It's gonna be impossible to get back 40 feet, or there's, every single house, because if you look at the end of Blue River Road, and I gave you like a bunch of plats, and I don't expect anybody to really look at it. End of Blue River Road, that 30-foot easement is entirely on their properties, as it was on the case of, I think, like Upper Gold Nugget or whatever that one is way above you. That easement was entirely on those properties because that's how it had to happen there.
Borders.
Right. Sometimes the road's 20 feet, like in Wilderness. Sometimes it's 60 feet, like it's Spruce Creek Road. I don't know if it makes sense to make the setback any different based on the width of the road. I don't necessarily think so, but I don't think 40, I think at a minimum, it's gotta be, for me, it's 40 off of the property line or 25 foot off of the road easement. And the reason is then you're not, to me, it just isn't right, because you can draw it any which way you want. But if you draw that up, and I think I had some sketches in here, you get two lots that are exactly the same size. Here's the property line in the middle, and the road sits 7 feet in on lot 2. And the road is 20 foot wide. And I'll say for the record, to me, 20 feet feels pretty good. I was surprised by that. I thought, 30 feet, maybe 25. And I was like, you know what? 20 feet was reasonably side. You felt like you had road. When it was less, you were like, wow, this is, yeah. But, that 7 plus 20 You're 27 in, now you're adding 25 to it. So you're 52 feet here. Why does the other guy get to go, 25 foot off the property line? Push him back 40. I think that's the right thing, but have some sort of streamlined, simple review of, and I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what we call it, but I think, to me, that's the right thing to do.
Now, are you saying this review would be done on every single construction or modification? Or would we be able to come up with a uniform number that's the starting point? Because I
think the starting point would be 40 from the stricter of 40 from the property line or 25 foot from the town road easement.
Which I guarantee very few properties would that town road easement really become a problem then. Because I think it's gonna be always near the property line.
There's
some, there will be some.
I just picked a couple, man.
But I think that would solve all of our problems with these designers, is they're all going from the property line 25 feet. If we just have a number of 40, that would cover 99% of it.
I can't turn the computer on, it's been here so long, battery's dead. I think that's starting point, man.
So Bob, you're asking about the process, I think it's like what you were saying, we want to come up with a way for these applicants to apply for a variance, but it's not a hardship variance, it's, property line or road discrepancy variance, whatever we want to call it, but that, Dan and I would agree, I think it needs to come before the commission and not just go in front of Chad, and Chad's like, oh yeah, okay.
And you want the entire commission to sit on that, because there's some options there.
I think it should come up in the monthly. It would be like, all right, we're reviewing this variance request, just like a hardship variance request. But if it doesn't have to go to the trustees and the P&Z can make the final say, yeah, we're good with that.
It's not in Colorado, but there is a community that does what they call equity variances. It's a different. It's not a hardship. It's what's fair, to the owner, based upon if it were road location. It's unfair for my property to be encumbered this way. I need fairness, and I ask you for an equity variance. So we can make a different type of variance so that we're not stuck on hardship.
Yeah, no, and I think that would be equity would be a good way to put it. Like, hey, I'm encumbered by the road. I want a variance to be a little closer to the road than the 25-foot setback because, the neighbor across the street is right up to the edge of this property line because the road doesn't sit on his property, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing we want to keep in mind too, it's not going to be many instances, but just thinking in future, what could happen is the road got built where it was. There's probably a topography thing, but who's to say for some reason that road gets rebuilt and it gets moved. So that's, I think, part of it. We don't want to give up that easement where it originally was supposed to be, because maybe that road does get moved to where it was platted.
From law, the law would say about this, we have no legal right to build in the private easement. Period. It's not our easement. We don't own it. We'd have to get everybody who owns the easement, we'd have to get their consent. So you get everybody in the subdivision say, yeah, town, you can move the road in that location. You have one person that says, no, you're not going to move the road. What does that result in? If the town really wants to move the road out of the prescriptive easement, they're going to have to condemn the space.
So the prescriptive easement is just where the road actually is. So all of the platted easements are considered a private easement.
They're private easements, they're mapped easements, and on the map, the plat map, it says the road easement is hereby given to all the people who live in the subdivision. I don't know who did that. If I saw them today,
Robert,
I think senior just passed away already.
What they should have said is the easement is hereby dedicated to the county. If it was in the town, to the town. They would not be even talking about this issue.
Yeah. Well, it was, that's because they weren't going to give it to the county and there was no such thing as the town yet.
Right.
What about if there's a preliminary site plan? So the first thing that I'm thinking about building, so it basically defines the buildable area. Then that's all it is. It's because in PUD, you've set that, right? And then it's here's your box. And so you're looking at it and you're saying, well, you're encumbered or you're not, here's your setback, and then they can say, well, I don't like it. And then they're looking at area variance.
And that's probably in a perfect world for the town, that's the best solution. Perfect world for developers and property owners have to go through a process that they don't know the outcome of. They're gonna sit down with you and say, what can I do? And you're gonna say, here's what you can do. That drives developers and some property owners crazy.
Okay.
Because they have no uniformity. They don't know what to expect. So.
Well, you know what you're starting with. Like if we have 40 from the property line and 20, or the more stringent of 25 foot off the road easement, town road easement. It's one of those two, that's your starting point. And then you can have, here's my site plan review. I want something different.
That's the easiest.
And then now you're into, I don't know.
I think that's absolutely more workable than anything else.
So
Anybody got any?
I agree.
Troy, you haven't been here for these last couple of years.
no, I think what you just described makes sense.
So question though, in your summary, you had said that there's a road in town that's really not in town, it's actually on the national forest. So, I mean, I would think that the national forest would never make us move it, but like, does that change for those couple of homes? Does that change the dynamic of how
I
much?
think we're saying like on Blue River Road, the end of Blue River Road, the road is completely on to the private property because of the
It's
borders.
supposed to be. I didn't even get into it. It's
I thought you
not.
said it
It
was on
sits
the
on the national forest at the very end. But to me, that's a simple thing, and the town really should address it.
I thought, because along the Blue River
It's
Trail.
platted on those properties, but they pushed it as far as back as they could. It sits partly on the.
Because I thought when you were at the end of Blue River Road, I thought there was still like right on the hillside Forest Service boundary marker in between the road and the Blue River Trail.
You know where that trail spikes up and goes up to the corner up on like Royal or whatever.
Yeah.
Right there, it comes down. And so next time you go out there, just take a peek at that. And it comes down and then you can see how that road on the right, if you're on the left, you're on private, you're on town, or you're on those people's land.
Yeah.
But on the right side, if you park, so when the town used to say you can't park, everyone's like, well, I can park right because I have Forest Service land. And they were really right. They were probably right. Like if you went to court, I don't know if the town had any right, but it's not part of this.
But if the
I'm trying
road's
to go
been
down
there for X amount of time,
no adverse possession with the federal government.
He gets his law degree. He gets his law degree.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's a lot of things that need to come out of this, and this is just one piece of it. The town really should be looking, and I suggested it at the last meeting, they need to survey all the roads. Every single one. Because I gave examples in here, and again, I can't see them anymore. I could go through their computer, but I have to figure out how to work it. But if you look like in Sherwood, there's a road that never got built. And I think it dead ends at like lot 74. And it never punched through.
Or Lodestone, same thing.
Right, same thing.
Supposed to be
The lot on
there's no road there.
on Blue Rock, that road was supposed to go in and then run along the river easement. And there was supposed to be a second road, that number 38 Blue Rock. He was supposed to have a road on both sides of them. It never got built and it never is going to. It's because everybody there has access. But these kind of things, in my opinion, that's all it is. They need to be cleaned up. We don't need archaic thing. Like if we had surveys of everything, we could then we could literally, as a town, say, we'd like to abandon this. Does anyone have any issue with that? And so the landowners then could say, well, yeah, I want to get rid of that shit. Or they might say, I want to keep it. But it's to me, that's what should happen. Got it.
So, I mean, I'll just bring it like with Bob mentioning, the town is essentially viewing all these road easements as private road easements, despite there being public roads.
No, there's two different roads. There's the road that the city laid down on the ground.
Yeah.
That people drive. That's called a prescriptive easement. After 18 years, if the government has placed a road or anything, road on a piece of land, private land, and used it, and the public's driven on it, and the town's maintained it and paid, took it to the taxes for the state and collected taxes for road taxes, we own a prescriptive easement. So that nobody could ever say, that road's on my property, you have to move it. It's our easement, okay?
Okay.
The other road is mapped on the subdivision maps, and that's a private easement.
Okay.
And the two roads do not necessarily overlap.
So my personal situation, lot 15, Blue Rock. So there, I'm Highway 9 on the west side. So highway, CDOT owns 50 feet of the edge of my property, that's their right away. And then there's the platted road easement that it's there, it's mapped out. The road's not there. The driveway bisects my property, so it cuts my property in half. And that's a private driveway, but it's also an access easement, so it's not on the Blue River plats, but when they developed the first two houses, they decided to put a driveway from Highway 9. But there's still that road easement, but the road's not there. But it is part of my private driveway that accesses to my home and two other homes. So when we get into creating these setbacks, like if I were set back off of that 25 foot off of the edge of that road easement, like my entire lot disappears. And then what about the access easement? That is the driveway that bisects my property. How do we draw the line between the platted access road and then this private driveway? And it kind of sounds to me like there's really no difference.
I would offer this. If it's a driveway, truly a driveway, it's not a public street.
Yeah.
Okay? It serves 1, 2, 3 homes, but it's not a public street. You wouldn't measure setbacks off of that private driveway because the owner could say, I don't mind if my driveway goes by my windows, right? Against my basement foundation.
So, it comes down to Highway 9, but then it tees in to this platted road easement. That it is platted, but it never got constructed, because it was 4 lots that were all owned by one corporation and they don't need the road. They built their own driveway. But that platted access easement is still there.
So ideally, it would run out to Highway 9 to the south.
Well, it would have, but it was also supposed to connect to
Rustic
Terrace.
Never got constructed. Yeah, that to me is like a private. So there's no town road easement, because I know you were calling it public or whatever, but we defined it as town road easement. That's what we call it. So for all of our discussion purposes, wherever the town maintains, there is none on his private driveway.
No town.
Town doesn't plow, they don't grade.
But if we create this more stringent setback rule,
where does that lead you?
Where does and it's
to a variance. That's what you would have to apply
Yeah,
for
it's coming in
variance.
front
You
of
don't
us.
do anything.
Well, I think his front setback, because it's a private drive, would be off of his front door to that property. Like you'd have to go to that property line and then come in 25 feet, and because there's no road. But the side, to me, the side is the side, but that's how I view that.
but like the side, there's this road that's not there, but it's platted. And then so there is the vacant lot 13. 13.
Yeah.
That has come up. The guy wanted to cantilever over the wetlands. That is another property that is encumbered. The road's not there. It's platted. He could build his access driveway through everybody's backyards, following this private easement that's platted. He doesn't have legal access to the property otherwise. But how would we be measuring setback on that property?
To me, you go off the platted because you go 40 feet off of the property line so they'd be into a variance, right? And that's what they made, what's the dude on 14, Brinkman?
Yeah.
He had to go through that,
Yeah. Yeah, and he, because he wasn't.
His front door faces the easement, but he's not To me, that is the,
I don't know how many of these, it's just where it's like, there isn't this public road platted, it's these private easements dictated in the subdivisions. But we have the prescriptive road. I see when there is a road that is close to where it was supposed to be, that we're trying to we don't want to pick winners or losers, so we're trying to push back over the more stringent, but if there's other
what would you
areas
wanna
where-
see? What would you wanna see?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think that should just be, it was abandoned in lot 18 and never connected to the highway.
Right,
But because the road was never built,
correct.
that easement should just be abandoned.
But where do you see,
Is there any
that's,
expiration for an
well,
easement?
Because then
where's the setbacks?
I would have side setback.
Well, where's your front?
Well, I mean, I'm way off the highway because of the huge right of way. So then, I guess my front setback would be off of the south.
I wouldn't disagree. That would be your front. But for these, if their front doors are facing.
Yeah.
It's off of the
But-
center line.
But without a road there, would it not just be the 25-foot off of the property line because it's just a driveway? It's not a road.
It would be,
So pushing them 40 feet, on lot 13, unbuildable. There's no.
I think it gets into a difficult, I don't disagree with you.
But
But if you start approving, if you say, okay, well, yeah.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Well, all the roads are what they are. And suddenly, everybody's gonna wanna be
But
25 feet off.
the road's not even
I know that.
there. So, but it's still.
Everybody there
There's
is
still the line
constructed.
on the map.
Everyone there is constructed. You're existing non-conforming. Your front door faces that
Yeah.
way. So your front setback is off the property
Yeah.
line. To me, that's a private driveway. So I wouldn't even take
I'm
it
just
into
thinking
consideration.
the next commission, if we create language to force a 40-foot setback, and then, what if lot 13 sits vacant for another 5 years? And then how's that next commission gonna interpret, oh, well, here's this road easement, and we gotta take, 25 feet off the edge of the easement of a road that doesn't even exist. And then making that lot 13 completely unbuildable again.
But it's never gonna be completely unbuildable because that's a true hardship. They're gonna get a variance.
Or
They
if
already
or if they
got approved. They already showed that they could construct. They got a buildable envelope.
I'm just trying to say, they can. Could it be interpreted that the driveway that is vaguely where the road easement is, if that then
25 feet off of there.
if that then is considered, oh, that's a road, serves 3 houses.
But it's not a
It's-
road
and
because
it's-
it's private. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's why
that's
why you're here.
where it's like, where are we?
Doug's
Where are
lost
we
interest.
drawing the line?
We're losing him.
I'm ADD, man. A lot of people long ago. I've been all over the map in my brain.
Well, without seeing the illustration, which is almost impossible to deal with this issue without seeing the picture. But understand this about the private platted road easement. It is not exclusive. What that means in the law is that other things can sit on top of it. So if you have a driveway on top of the platted road, fine. Who would argue with you about that? Everybody in the subdivision who owns that easement would say you're a bad boy for sitting on top of our road.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen, right? So I wouldn't sweat it, but if you have a private driveway on top of a road easement, don't worry about it. If you have a private driveway that's not public, open to the public, I don't think we should be measuring setbacks for
Right.
that, period.
Yes.
It just is what it is.
I'm just concerned if we're changing language on setbacks and trying to the road's over there, but instead of measuring off the road, we're gonna measure off of the access easement and push you back even more, that could muddle the waters for.
This is why we talked about this kind of equity variance, is that you come in, you say, look at the crap that I got handed to me, fix it.
If there was two separate things, if we had private and public road easements, but there is not a public road easement, there's only the prescriptive road easement. So I just see that being maybe a little more complicated, and some of the wording, Dan and I had talked about this, and we're like, oh, if we just don't say private. But then, well, all these are private easements, so that doesn't really.
But we're really trying to protect you off of the private driveway.
Yeah, but there's also, which would be my side setback, there's also that private road easement.
You should want, I mean, I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but do you not want some sort of setback in your neighborhood? Because think about it. If you're just saying, well, there is no setback.
Well, all the homes are already built.
Well, they are,
Except
but they can change.
True.
So think about that.
Yeah.
Just think about what you'd like it to look like, because that's what we're talking about. So there has to be some sort of setback, right? But what is reasonable to you?
Yeah, and what are we measuring off of? I mean, like, with the houses that are currently there, yeah, they're not, I mean, they're certainly not 40 off of the.
No.
Off of the.
They try to get them 25.
They're not 25, because 17 goes all the way up to the highway. So it's he's way in, but not off of that access.
Yeah, Brinkman had a difficult situation.
But I'm like, I would like, the house on 17, if that gets scraped and rebuilt, like, it couldn't be put, because there's the river easement. It couldn't get pushed back any further. He's already right up next to the river easement.
Yeah.
But it's the end of the driveway.
Do you want him to build right on the private driveway? Okay.
I mean, it's like,
We'll say what you want.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's.
Think about it, because that's what we're doing.
It's right up. I'm sure it's currently built right up to the edge of the access road.
So he's got a driveway, there is a little depth of driveway.
So the verbiage that you were mentioning that Bob agreed with.
I would go 40 off property line or 25 off town road easement.
What I got?
And then have some sort of method. I like the light review. We don't have classifications of application, we have like ABC, I think. But, we don't need a full-blown review. But maybe, I would think applicants that had a challenge, before they start drawing a building, they'd wanna come in and say, I got an issue with this building envelope. And that's when you'd look at it and you'd say, yeah, you do. And then you'd say, well, you're probably every single other house, because you're at the end of Blue River Road and there's water behind you and road right in front. This is reasonable, and that's how you define it, in my mind.
Okay. So I'm just curious, so this light review of this building envelope issue, this would be for any easement, not just the road issues. So if I come to you and say, hey, I got a problem with the river easement or some Excel power line easements or whatever it happens to be, are you talking about this light review for that, or do those still go through a hardship review?
I think they're a hardship review to me. This is about the road. To me, this is about the road. That's what this is about. That's why we went down this. And we're gonna ultimately end up at wetlands too. But the original code, up until when it was established, up until 2025-02, this is essentially what it said, And we got through, and it was messy, and a lot of people did other things, but it relatively worked for the most part.
Right.
We're not trying to change, we're trying to go back. The one thing I don't think we should, like when I was basically taking old language and overlaying it, the one thing I don't agree with, I don't think we need to be setting back off of pedestrian easements. I don't think we want anyone to construct in them, but they're typically only a max of 10 foot. So if you have a 15-foot side setback, you're gonna have zero impact. But a patio could potentially impact it. That's why we need to see easements. Our site plans need to show everything from the plat. Every easement needs to be shown, because those are encumbrances, whether they're river, road, pedestrian, parking, utility. Like there is a parking easement up on like County Road 801. There was supposed to be a ski resort access right there. And there is a lot with parking easement on it. So we need to see all encumbrances on every site plan, well defined. To me, I think it's crazy not to have.
So Dan, I'm talking 40-foot setback, is that gonna just be all front setbacks? on all lots. Would be 40-foot front setback, is that?
Other than obviously Spruce Valley Ranch, and I think there's an impact in River Shore. Again, I can't see my computer.
But that would be.
Doesn't River Shore have a reduced,
I think they do.
they have a 20-foot instead of 25 front setback. So in that instance, you'd say 40, and in their case, it would be 15 plus 20, 35.
From the prescriptive easement.
Theirs might be platted differently. Don't they have the road actually platted?
River Shore,
Yeah.
So the property lines come up to Big
River
Road.
Shore.
Yeah.
right, the little, where you go in the little gate.
It might be, it might be.
Because if we actually have a road that's completely owned by the town,
I can't see it on handicap for other reasons.
so maybe if the plats already account for the road correctly, maybe then it's reduced to 25.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
And that-
trying to figure out if it's a link at 45, but then all of a sudden there's but. That doesn't seem like that's the solution, if we're just like, it's all now 40-foot front setback.
But it always was, it literally was, until 2025-02.
Was it worded 45 feet or was it?
It was worded,
25
it was worded 25 front setback per C definition of setback, and I don't have it in front of me, but 16.320 then said you need to measure from the drip edge to da-da-da. And then also in setbacks, which I've got it here, I guess I would have to dig deeper, but whether it's like 16.430, I don't have it, but we had to go to 3 places, and then, yeah, there you go, you got it all. Yeah, so 16.320 is definitions. But really, the setback, that's why these architects were getting confused, because you go to R1 zone district, and it talks about setbacks, 15 on side, 25 rear,
But
per the zone district, and then you gotta go back, which I can.
I have to tell you, that's 99% of the codes of the United States, is that in the zone district, you put the distance of the setback and how you measure it is in the design standards.
I don't have any problem with it, but for some odd reason, and I really think it's ulterior motives, because they didn't like what it said.
Exactly, they're trying to manipulate.
I don't have any problem, like if we wrote exactly what I had and fixed Chris's private road issue, I could live with it, but you don't like it. You want to start from scratch.
Well,
So if you need to.
I see 3 places that are confusing to kind of intermesh. And one of them is not the zone district. It's the definition section, it's the 02, and it's the current 23 code. We have to make sure that all of those are consistent to implement the kind of spacing that you're talking about.
Yeah, it seems pretty easy to me.
So are you, who's writing it up to give to the trustees?
I'm gonna take a cut at it, but this guy's are you gonna be gone, you said?
Well, not till that week of like the 20th, that's like spring break, so I bet you there's like a couple of your board is out too, but I can't.
All right,
say
well,
that.
I will take a cut at it and then I'll work with Dan.
Yeah, it's not emergent, you know what I mean? This isn't like an emergency
I get
red
it.
fire hat.
I get it, but
Well, it's been rolling long enough to.
Right, we
Totally.
keep saying it's not an emergency every month.
it's not an emergency.
Right, but it's at all, we're not gonna freak out, I'm not freaking out.
Yeah,
Right.
I just noticed this when they came out with it, I was like, yeah, this is what we want. But I think we'll all get another crack at talking about it, and then we'll have it put to the trustees. I do, one last thing, did you have more on setbacks?
No, not setbacks, that's something else.
So 201 Creekside, and I know this is still a public meeting, I don't know that I see that as a hardship, and I never did. They have a small cabin, very, very small, 800 plus square foot. They want what they want, and they don't like where the road is defined. And I don't know that, to me, I don't know that that's a hardship, especially based on what we talked about. And I know I have that in the back of my mind, because I'm like, hardship can be viewed a lot of different ways. And a lot of people think, well, I got nowhere else to put it. You do. You can take down the cottage. I'm not saying you have to, but if you want a giant house built onto a tiny house, to me, it should have found its place on that lot, because they have a lot of buildable area.
And variance standards speak to that. You're allowed a variance to the least impactful to the regulations. So just because you ask for a variance, you want to push the structure, say, all the way front, If you don't have to push all the way front, the variance is don't push it all the way out. The variance standards are not to give you what you ask for, it's to give you what will let you have fair use of your property. Okay, and so with regard to, if they've got plenty else other space to use, that would come into the evaluation of a variance, whether or not you grant it. They may have a hardship because they can't put it where they want it, but if they can put it somewhere else, they don't have a hardship. So if it's legal there, so they don't get to play the game of, I want to put it here, give me a variance. It's, I need to use my property, and the only place I can put it is here. That's the variance. That's the hardship.
I just bring it up because, you know, they left here. What we're seeing is architects are basically designing things 100%. And then they're coming in and they're like, wait a minute, what? I can't do this? And no one's happy. I thought we saw the exact same thing on lot 12 Blue Rock, but we didn't have the full plans. And we didn't have completed plans on 201 Creekside, but even with them, you know, we could certainly approve it, but I don't know that it meets the definition of hardship. That's why I bring it up, because they're gonna walk out of here and go to Chad and to Kyle and be cruising on down the line. And the reality is I don't know how to feel about that. So we don't have to
jump through a few more hoops and then we'll be.
and maybe that's what needs to happen. But you guys should be contemplating that as well. It's like, what is a hardship? Because that's what we're gonna be seeing. Lots
More
of
and more,
Yeah. That was
And-
sometime I was to speak about.
or more and more people saying they're having a hardship.
Right.
You know, it's different, but it's, you know, kind of similar to like my property and the neighbors, and like, I don't have a road that was ever built, but that 201 Creekside, it's at the end of the road, and it just forks into 3 driveways. So, I mean, I get where they're coming from. It's like, where does that end? Where, you know, like, why are we pushing them back from, like, the road stops existing? It stops getting plowed at that turnaround.
Well, where do they plow to?
Driveways,
Where do they plow? Because I bet you they're not, I know the road shows it stopping right there.
Yeah.
But I think they plow to the end straight ahead. But there's no snow to really decide that. And we can
On the
certainly,
creek side,
yeah, they're
right,
plowing to the end.
yeah, they do,
Totally,
right up to.
totally. So that's a town road easement, no matter how we slice it. So we don't have to stick to 40 feet like we just said. We don't have to say it's 40 feet or it's 25 off of this.
But that's an example of like, yeah, they're plowing to the end, but the platted road encroaches into their property more than the actual road does.
Does it though?
Yeah, looking at that, well, I mean, I don't know if I have it.
It's alright. I mean,
But because it shows the road kind of curving up, and that's essentially their driveway.
Yeah,
But like where they'd be plowing is like they're going to the next driveway past. You know, they're not plowing up into there.
at a minimum though, it's 25 foot off the town road easement. Not to say that there can't be leeway there. It's just, that's a very large home built there, or being proposed to be built there.
Yeah, and I think I'm looking at that as like it's the 25 feet off of the platted access easement that's the encumbrance. They didn't really illustrate off of the road, because the road kind of like where does the road stop being the road, because it just fingers in the driveways. You know, so are you measuring off the edge of the driveway?
I drove it today.
I haven't looked at it in person, just looking.
I see it from both sides, but it's just one of those things, you know? Alright. It's a lot.
You want your motion?
I'll make that motion. Do adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Thanks, Tom.
You bet. I haven't been up with you guys in what?
I know, where you been? You had surgery, right?
Did.
You'll never come back.
I'm never coming back.
Little trip, I know.
A back,
A bat.
low back.
You better?
2 discs and stenosis that I drill out. So it was quite the.
Went in there, cleaned you out with the Dremel.
Yeah, Dremel did.
Okay.
And cut some disc out.
Oh.
But it's doing good. Large successful.
Really?
Having just sad. I couldn't walk.
Wow.
was crawling.
Really?
Yeah.
Something that came on or?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
having,
So
my wife had me build a rock wall, you know, replace it.
Bikes.
And I moved a rocket,